10.
No.
I just remember calling back to Gregory, and I'm like, you guys have got to move, and you got to move now. I cannot hold this position.
Sandy, you're kind of really strong.
I would love to see what kind of you got to do to get a Medal of Honor in the Space Force.
You f***ing alien.
Do you want to pull it out real quick?
You want him to whip it out on a podcast?
Oh, yeah, whip that out.
Didn't see this podcast going this direction, man, if I'm being perfectly honest.
What's up, everyone? Holy freaking mother of God. We are at, we'll just say $72,000 in money raised for veteran nonprofits. I'm just truly thankful for being able to do this, and that is because of this amazing community. We are $72,000 to go to 3 amazing nonprofits, veteran nonprofits, and it's all thanks to you all, so thank you so freaking much. And that is from the entire team. It is a blessing to be able to do something like this, or for autism, or for anything that we want to make a difference in, and that is such an impactful, amazing thing. So thank you from the bottom of all our hearts. Let's blow this out of the water. Let's just keep kicking ass. Let's keep these cells going for Veterans Month. And again, 100% of this one, which y'all love that shirt, and undiagnosed, 100% of proceeds are going towards those veteran nonprofits. And then a percentage of everything on store will also be going towards those amazing nonprofits. And we have Turkey Day coming up for some amazing sales, which will be automatically applied for this stuff. So, thank you all. Thank you so freaking much. I hope each and every one of you know how amazing you are, and that difference you guys and gals make in individuals' lives through just that community-based aspect of hanging out, talking, interacting with each other. Being able to see that in person is one of the greatest gifts you guys could have given us. So thank you so freaking much. And now for one of the big episodes with Mr. Clint Romesha. Love y'all.
Dude, I'm so happy you're here. We haven't got to hang out in so long. I forget you existed. We've told many of stories about you. Angry cops wearing your medal.
Oh, God, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Oh, Jack. Wait, didn't it break on him?
Probably.
I threw it at someone. Well, it was already broken, but I didn't tell him that. And I humchucked it at him. We made fun of him so much. He fucking broke it.
You broke that one? That was basically my introduction to you, was chucking the metal at me. I'm like, oh God. I think I physically started sweating.
I don't know if you can emotionally sweat, can you?
I was going to figure out a way.
Oh, I'm so excited. We're so excited. Okay, Cody, you want to kick this bitch off?
Okay.
Oh, wait, we got to do this first. Ready? Yep. Everyone, get your can. You got to pop it at 3, 2, 1. Ready? Hold it up to the mic.
Up to the mic.
3, 2, 1.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Unsubscribed Podcast. I'm joined today by Eli Doubletap, Clint Romesha, Brandon Herrera, myself, Donut Operator. We love you, and we're happy you're here.
What's up? Well, this is one of the last episodes for the Veterans Day month. So, fucking the way to do this one, our boy, and Brandon. Thank you.
I love how you...
Brandon Herrera.
Eli, you're embarrassing me in front of the wizard.
Dude, we've been so... I know this is an episode where it's like, fuck, do it. Oh, God. It's an honor and then a nightmare at the same time.
It's like, oh, this is going to be a really cool podcast. Also, Eli. Eli's going to make this awful.
Started as a joke. And now
it took you 2 minutes.
Full circle. Here we are. We're going to close this chapter after this amazing episode on this joke
the
for you.
Forced Valor Saga.
Dude, our live tour is called Forced Valor. Or
Stolen
Valor.
Valor.
Sorry. I don't...
I thought it was
one of the same.
Forced or stolen?
Stolen. Next, that's the third. We'll do Forced, the third. Man, how... introduce yourself. So all the beautiful people out there that might not know who you are.
I'm Clint. I drink Busch Light.
Oh,
Name one
Fat
interesting.
It's like
Name one interesting fact about yourself. What instrument do you play?
Busch Light.
The Busch,
Yeah, Busch Light.
the Busch Light. It kind of goes like this.
All right. Thank God Nick is back in town. Jeez.
Dude, I haven't had a bush light in so long, dude.
Yeah, right.
It's been 48 hours since my last bush light, but that's because I was out in Philadelphia and they don't really have them out there.
Oh, I'm sorry. What you are right now on tour? I don't even know where to start. This is okay. So long. I met you how long ago? 2018, 2017.
Would it have been? I'm trying to remember the first time we did meet. Was it on Range 15?
Maybe actually. That might have actually been
yeah.
it.
That was,
Yeah, I actually
that's
think
what
that
I
was-
still didn't. That's what I still didn't realize what all this interweb stuff was.
And still to this day, you
I
don't.
know.
You are a true. You literally just live out in North Dakota still.
Yep, Minot, North Dakota. Went up there, got out of the Army, chasing oil fields, thinking this is going to be my life. Because I was out for I was out for 2 years before I even got that call. And I'm sitting there in the oil field one day, minding my own business, and I get this call on my cell phone. Look down, and it's like, oh, it looks like a telemarketer number. I'm a field safety specialist at the time, so I'm like, oh, I got time to kill. I'm going to fuck around with this guy. And I answer it, and all of a sudden this is Colonel Davis, G1 of the Pentagon. It's like, oh, fuck, what'd I do?
First off,
What did I do? She's lying.
The war crimes are coming back.
It's like statute of limitations should be up.
No, you have the wrong number.
he switches to that voice.
Mr. Clinton was here.
No, you get the Windex.
No, no lemon pledge.
The Colonel's just looking at his phone like, the fuck?
What is this stuff? No, I mean, I did 12 years in the Army, joined in 99, just like a lot of guys did back then. And in the course of that, did three deployments, 2 to Iraq, 1 to Afghanistan, Afghanistan 09, October 3rd, Battle of Cop Keating. From there, we had a little bit of a hectic day that day, to say the least, but with the help of the 50 other Americans, the 2 Latvian soldiers, and 15-hour firefight after getting almost overran, pushed out, and for the actions of that day, I got, I don't know if it's nominated or recommended, but for the Medal of Honor, which is, again, something you don't ever wake up thinking you're going to try to achieve, go do. It just, I'll be honest, that day was one of the worst but yet best days of my life, because I got to see so much awesome shit from the guys to my left and right, so much love, and just so much just dedication for something more than yourself. So I might have got selected to wear it, but I'll tell you time and time again, it's for those, not for me. And
Well,
I'm
that's-
always humbled to kind of state that.
That's what I think you truly go above and beyond, and you exemplify what that means. Is you still to this day, even on the call, you're like, you were like, that's not, no, and it was your guys that told you, like, hey, like, hey, you did something. And you're like, no, man.
Well, I mean, what was really cool though, like the recommendation came not initially. The recommendation initially came because my commander put me in for a DSC. And at that time, like I said, we were
Distinguished Service Cross.
Yeah, Distinguished Service Cross. And at that time, we were 3 months into a 12-month deployment. And I remember just kind of looking at Stoney Portis and I'm like, hey, sir, we got 9 more months left. Let's get these boys home and worry about awards later. And we got through that next 9 months. I was so proud of those guys because not a single guy from Red Platoon said this was too tough for me. I couldn't do it. They pulled up their big boy pants and they pushed through. Got home, I'd already made the decision to get out of the Army, used the last 12 months, made that transition. I said I hadn't heard anything. Like I said, back in my mind, I was just trying to get on with life. So then I went chasing oil fields in North Dakota. And then, like I said, 2 years later, get this random phone call.
Dude, 2 years later, they call you up.
I don't know if you've ever been around military process. The most expedited thing, unless you owe them money.
What the fuck is it? They show you a gunpoint. You're like, what the?
Where are those pants that you left?
It's the only thing the government's good at.
Yeah. What's the first thing you said to them? Like after all that, when they called you up?
Well, the first thing, talking on the phone to Colonel Davis, he's like, hey, we need you to come out to D.C. We got something to tell you. Like I said, in the back of my mind, I'm like, statute of limitations should be up. They'd taken 2 years to track me down here in North Dakota.
No.
But like I said, initially in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, that DSC, the Distinguished Service Cross, my commander said he was going to put me in for, it's probably got downgraded to maybe a Silver Star or something. I'll probably have to go to DC, shake a few hands, probably get a free frickin' desserts from the DFAC for Life award or something like that.
Yeah.
But I told Colonel Davis, I'm like, hey, just tell me over the phone. He's like, no, you got to do it in person. I'm like, well, I'm working 6 to 7 days a week in the oil fields at that time, making some awesome money. I was like, let me talk to my boss and I'll get back to you. Hung up the phone, immediately called, I can't remember if it was Raz or Lars, one of the guys, and I called them up. I'm like, hey, I just got this really weird phone call. You guys know what's going on? And they're like, no, hadn't heard anything. Haven't you ever gotten an award for that day? And I'm like, nope, nothing yet, but maybe something's coming down the pipe. I went and I talked to my boss. It was about 2 weeks later, is kind of processing everything. And I finally went and talked to my boss. I'm like, hey, I need kind of a weekend off. I got to go to DC for this thing. So cool. What thing is it? I'm like, I don't really know. Hopefully I'll be back on Monday. But if I can have a couple of days off, the Army's going to set travel up and I'll go out. So it wasn't until I got out to DC, show up. First thing I do when I come off the plane, I'm looking around before I clear security to see if there's MPs hiding.
You're still.
Oh, I'm still thinking, man.
You like, these motherfuckers are trying to trick me.
And all of a sudden I see this full bird colonel in freaking Class A uniform. And I'm like, oh, okay, so this is real. This is serious.
You're like,
Something's
I'm going to
on. Don't
Leavenworth.
see the MPs. Well, I go up and I introduce myself and he's like, all right, well, we got to head to the Pentagon. I've never been on the Metro before in my life. That's scary shit. Like, I don't like being underground, but we got on the Metro and headed straight to the Pentagon.
The DC Metro, too.
I know.
From Dulles? Or Dulles?
Reagan.
Reagan.
Came in at
Oh, okay,
Reagan.
got it.
Beautiful.
It's
it's great
amazing.
people.
I'm not known
getting
for
judgmental eyes.
I was more terrified of that freaking Metro ride than anything because it's just unnatural.
That's how you got your second medal.
Yeah. Well, so we show up to the Pentagon.
That poor Michael Jackson impersonator. Why is that so funny, Eli?
Nothing.
We show up at the Pentagon, and I realized, okay, maybe it's not so bad because we didn't even go through security. Like they had a secret door for us to kind of just breeze on through. So didn't go through metal detectors. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. And in the back of my mind, I'm still sitting there thinking, it's like, okay, they're going to hand me maybe a Bronze Star with V or silver. Something got downgraded. They're just going to do a quick ceremony, shake my hand, send me on my way. And they pull me into this room, and there's all these colonels, all these frickin' generals and stuff, and they're just like, oh, congratulations, Sergeant Romesha, awesome. And I'm like, still have no idea what's going on until I sat down, and as I look across the way, they got the PowerPoint presentation going on because the Army's never going to do nothing without PowerPoint. And right in front of me...
Just like you still hate the military. Like, God damn it.
Sitting in front of me are these three posters, and one is of Sal Junta, the first living recipient since Vietnam. The next one's Leroy Petrie.
Yeah.
And then the third one was Sergeant Sabo posthumously, and it's all Medal of Honor, Medal of Honor, Medal of Honor. And I just remember kind of sitting down and looking, and they're giving their brief, and the PowerPoint's going on, and I'm not hearing a word they're saying. And I don't know if I was looking down for maybe 2 minutes or 20 minutes. I finally look up, and I'm like, hey, time out, boys. And the room gets quiet, and I go, what is all this Medal of Honor stuff? And one of the colonels kind of looks over, and he's like, oh, you don't know Sergeant Romesha? And I'm like, wouldn't be asking a question I knew the fucking answer to. Like, what is this? I know told,
you said that too, which is my favorite thing about you.
I'm like, I got told I got put in for like a DSC or something by Stony Portis. So what's all this Medal of Honor stuff? And they're like, well, you've been recommended for upgrade. Short of the president signing the award, you'll be receiving the Medal of Honor. And I just remember kind of looking back at the guy, and I'm like, for what? I didn't do anything special. And like I said, I made that I'd been out for 2 years. I thought I'd put all that stuff in a little box, and I put it in the back of my mind. And I remember just as I was talking to the guys almost every day, driving to the oil fields, the guys I served with, they would bring kind of that stuff up. And that was kind of my processing, where I thought I had it all kind of behind me. And then all of a sudden it was the next frickin' day I had a Wikipedia page, and then everybody knew. I mean, when I got back to work, I was overseeing the pipeline crews at the time, and one of the pipeline guys comes up to me, Hispanic fellow. He comes up and he's
Mexican.
comes up and he's like, "Hey,
Why did you want me to take that higher? You look straight at me.
I don't know. Yeah, you could just say.
I wasn't going to say it.
He comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, I heard what you did in the Army. My uncle has been kidnapped by the cartel in Mexico. They want $250,000 for his. Now I'm spacing
You
words.
think you were
without-
fucking John Rambo? Like you were just going to take a boat down to...
He gives you a night. He's like, my
the
uncle.
cartel kidnapped him and was holding this
Ransom.
ransom. Yeah, $250,000 ransom for his uncle because the cartel knew a lot of the Mexicans were coming up working the oil fields in North Dakota, making that good money. So they would kidnap their families that they were leaving back there. And so they literally came up and he's like, "Hey, we'll pay you the money if you want to get your guys together and go down to Mexico to go get my uncle."
I just like to see you on the news and like, the white boy at work.
Well-
he's a badass. Bring him a 9.
No,
It's a culture. It's what we call a cultural barrier.
I called up Raz and a couple of my buddies. I'm like, "Hey, do we got contacts in Mexico? Like, we got a quick way to make
Got it out.
Well, the problem was, and I know Avalos is going to hate me for saying this, but Avalos was our fister, and he's like the one Mexican that can't speak Mexican. So
Me and
we're
Brandon. Sorry, Brandon and I.
so we're like, man, if we could get Avalos. Oh no, he's not going to be an interpreter for us. Man, we don't have a solid team together.
Dude, what's up, bitches?
Most of us Americanized Mexicans are barely monolingual.
Yeah, struggle bussing. I just like the first idea was like, I bet he can save my. He's a hero. We'll just send him down there. We'll half.
Well,
Were you just there whittling like wood, just like, I don't do that life anymore.
that's behind me. I don't want to turn that back on.
You don't want to see that.
I went to my war.
Our sponsor for this video is PDS Dep because everything is really expensive right now.
I spent $400 at the grocery store, and I don't even know what I got.
Milk. He got milk.
One milk. You may be in debt right now because the economy is in shambles.
You know what also comes with debt? Stress, anxiety, existential doom.
PDS Debt has a solution for you.
Help is available.
Whether it be medical bills, collections, credit card debt, they have customized options for you.
If you're making payments on your debt and your balance isn't going anywhere, this is the solution for you.
PDS Debt has options that consolidates all of that debt into one low monthly payment.
Everyone with $10,000 or more in eligible debt qualifies, and there's no minimum credit score required.
Save thousands in interest and fees, and pay off your debt in a fraction of the time.
PDS Debt is a top-rated company on Google and has an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau.
They're personable. Go check out all the reviews and see how many specifically mention PDS employees by name.
It's incredible.
You can get a free debt analysis right now by going to pdsdebt.com/unsub. It takes 30 seconds. Go to pdsdebt.com/unsub. Go now!
I'm going.
So so fast forward, you get that, and then everyone else. What is that experience like afterwards? Because we'll rewind to the story. I want to hear more of like some of the other stuff you've done because you were in 2ID initially, and then and that was I didn't realize I was 2ID, so I never knew we were part of you were in Korea and then I was.
You were up in Lewis, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that was because you were up in Lewis in
05.
05 to.
Just standing up, they stood up in 06, so it was 2CR. Then they stood up to, then we switched to infantry. And then it was like, okay, 2CR to infantry from 06 to 08, and then whatever they did afterwards. But I was like, oh shit, I didn't realize that. And then you came aboard as a tanker initially.
Yeah, initially I joined the Army as a tanker because here's how motivated I was. Like I said, when I joined the Army, I grew up in a tiny town in Northern California. I was tired of just milking cows and digging fence posts. Like, that was my motivation to go in. Like, I'm tired of smelling like frickin' bag bomb. I grew up in this town of 100 people, went to school in a town of like 500. Yeah, I graduated in the top 15 of the 14 kids in my senior class.
Holy
So you grew up like actual, like small town.
Small town. In
Farmer.
In California, out of all places,
Yeah.
too. But when I came in, like I said, I was 17 when I graduated, not because I was super smart, just because my birthday was in August. And I went to my dad, who was a Vietnam vet. He did 2 tours over in Vietnam as an infantryman. My granddad, World War II combat engineer. He served, he made it through Normandy beach landing, Battle of the Bulge. Like, he had an impressive kind of resume himself. My oldest brother, he started off in the Army, had a break in service, Air Force. He actually just retired down here 2 years ago out of the Air Force.
No shit.
Second oldest brother, which, my wife reminded me. She's like, God, if you're going to be down there, maybe you go see your older brother. I'm like, I seen him 2 years ago when he retired. But
That's how I think a lot of us are. We're like, why? I FaceTimed him like 3 months ago. That's like the same thing.
no news is good news when it comes to family sometimes. And my second oldest brother, he joined the Marines. So there was always kind of this lineage of military service in the
3
family.
generations.
But really for me, I was just like, it's 99. I want to go see the world. Get that GI Bill. Maybe I'll grow up and finally get educated enough to actually want to go to college.
I hope nothing bad happens in 2 years.
Yeah. Oh, the foresight. Well, my dad, because I was 17, I went up to Dad and I'm like, hey, you got me luggage for my graduation present. Like, I understand the task here. I'm not.
And that's actual. And that was a real story.
Yeah. That was my graduation present from my parents, was frickin' Samsonite frickin' luggage, which I think they spent like $300 or $400. They were pretty impressed on that stuff.
They were.
I thought that was an expression at first.
That's an old farm town. They're like, son, I'm so proud of you. Get the fuck out of my house.
You're going to pay rent.
Or go to college, join the military. Join the military.
So when I went to my dad at 17 and I'm like, hey, Dad, got my plan. I'm going to join the Army. You just got to sign for me. Got the recruiter already ready to sign, have all the paperwork set up. And Dad looked at me and he's like, hey, not going to do it. Back of my mind, I'm like, this son of a bitch. I'm the youngest of the 3 boys. He wants me around for one more summer of free frickin' labor. And he very quickly followed it up with, hey, Clint, it's 1999. There's not a lot going on in the world. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not in 20 years, but if you put that uniform on, you might have to go and do and see things that no one should have to go do and see. Said, growing up, I knew my dad had served in Vietnam. I knew my granddad had served in World War II, but all of the stories they told us, none of them had to do with combat. Not a single one about combat or any of the things they seen overseas and stuff like that. It was always the stories of the shenanigans they got in with their buddies. And in my mind, I'm like, Dad, you had a great time in the Army from all the stories you were telling me. I didn't really realize what he was actually trying to say then. And then, of course, join that August, ship off, get to my first duty station, Germany. Well, I got to backtrack a little bit. When I did turn 18 and said, hey, I'm going to go down and sign, the only advice my dad gave me was like, don't go infantry. Go find a job in the Army that you can do afterwards. Be a welder, be a plumber, be something like that. And I'm like, no, I want to go combat arms. And he's like, well, just please, son, don't go infantry. So I decided to sign up for tanks because I'm lazy and I don't like to walk. So I can't come back and I told my dad, I'm like, hey, didn't go infantry. I'm going to be on tanks. And he just looks at me. He's like, why the hell would you do that? You're just the biggest target on the battlefield, you idiot.
I like you're like, don't join combat. It's like, do something that will help you outside the military, like tanks.
Yeah.
Those are just,
they're just
up and down the street all the time.
If we had more killdozers, that'd be a popular.
Yeah.
That's what's holding him back.
We don't, but we should.
That's why he's starting a new
Oh, God.
his new nonprofit. It builds killdozers for vets.
We get AR 500 plate donated. And
The Hemeyer Relief Fund.
Why is this working so well? We're just shipping them out.
So many steel plates today.
We've taught 95 veterans how to weld.
do you need to learn how to hook up cameras? Eliminate your blind spots.
You've been really cool. Don't go to the library today.
Where did it go wrong?
I think it's a great idea.
Oh, I love it.
So that was kind of my introduction to the Army, and my pathway in was through all that. So I said honestly, when I came in, I was like, if I can do 4 years, maybe make corporal and not go to Leavenworth, that would be the high achievement of my life.
I like that was your goal. It's like
You got to set them low. Achievable things.
I don't want to break big rocks into little rocks. You get past that, okay. And then your college is paid for. You're like, hey. Then 9/11 kicks off. You do that. What was that experience? Because we've talked to a couple of people, but everyone's experience is different. You're in your unit now for a year, 2 years at that point.
Been in just over 2 years. Like I said, was on tanks. 9/11 kicks off, and of course, right away, it's like, we're going after Bin Laden in Afghanistan. It's like, oh shit, I'm on tanks. The one place we learned from the Russians that tanks don't mix is Afghanistan. So kind of knew right away. It's like, fuck, I'm gonna miss it. We'd gotten, right shortly after 9/11, we were already scheduled to go back to Kosovo for another Kosovo deployment back then. And in my mind, I was like, well, shoot, I'll ride my time out here in Germany, probably get out, but we just had 9/11, but that's what you joined up for. You want to go to war, being young and naive at the time,
It sounds so cool on paper.
Oh man, it looks awesome in those Rambo movies.
I can't stress it. We've talked about it a couple of times. It is the idea. It's like war sounds so cool until one bullet. And then you're like, oh man, that is...
This sucks. No.
Wow, that's like paintball, but that kills me. Way worse.
Not walking that one off.
Oh, I love you.
Eli did.
Yeah, and so
Yeah, there you go.
This is way worse than mine.
No, Eli, this is about you. Let's talk about you.
Yeah, let's put it. We can go on to yours.
You're the real hero, Eli.
Brandon,
See how this feels?
right now.
This is real awkward, huh?
Brandon, right now. This is a fight. We're just pushing it back and forth. Cody's like, what the fuck's going on?
Dude, I'm just having a great time. All these amazing veterans I'm surrounded by today.
That's 2 donut.
Dude, I will say, the running joke is for the year. Brandon, you explain it because this is done to you.
Well,
it was a fine Veterans Day. I'll set it up.
So last year, for Veterans Day, Eli's like, hey, do you want to jump on a podcast real quick? We're going to record an extra podcast with, I believe it was Crispy and Jack Mandeville.
Yep.
So, yeah, sure. No, I'd love to. I'd just jump on real quick. I live right down the road. So, jump on the podcast. And Eli didn't tell me the opening bit of the podcast is going to be him attempting to pin his Purple Heart on me for Veterans Day. And I have lived my entire life avoiding any claims of stolen valor, like plague, because I was never in the military. I didn't do any of that stuff.
You didn't want to be a Tim Walz?
Yeah, exactly. I didn't want to, claim like when I was overseas. Oh, I never said that. Asshole. But he, good thing we'll never have to hear his name again. And then Eli comes over and attempts to pin his Purple Heart on me. I'm like, no.
You're an honorary Purple Heart member today. I can't do that.
And that became the running bit. And then the internet took off with it because, of course, the fucking internet did. And now I think I have 3 Medals of Honor, 42 Purple Hearts, pretty sure a couple of Iron Crosses.
I'm searching Brandon Herrera military. Imagine never serving.
Oh my goodness.
That is Google Images.
Everything in the world.
What's funny
showing you.
What's funny is it's mixed
familiar.
in. Yeah, right?
I know. It's like, hey.
It's mixed in with real photos though, which is really bad.
Brandon's like, no. Dude, it was a joke that went way too far.
It's all Eli's fucking fault. 1 year this joke has been a thing.
So we're like, we'll close it out with a proper closeout. This is the episode.
There's only one way you have to. If you're gonna kill a joke, you have to kill it, in my opinion, anyway, within the universe that it exists. So the only way possible that I think would be fitting would be in, as Eli has proclaimed it, Veterans Day month, with an actual Medal of Honor recipient. So I think that's the only appropriate way.
Full circle.
Full circle.
And as embarrassing as it is, it's still something like...
With friends like these.
And this was best. It did bring a lot of good light and negative light in the election, but past that, it was really good light. Everyone's a good sport about it. Even on social media, he has so much people. Like we did a Veterans Day post with it's like us in service, and it is now Unsub's best performing post ever, which is something to say about. Like it's hey, like all the hosts.
My favorite is that's Eli's face there.
And all the comments are just talking about Brandon's like, is this his dude? One of them got me. The one that got me the most was Brandon has oak leaves on his Medal of Honor. I was like, bro, you go hard if you have like 2 or 3 oak leaves on that medal. I was like, our boy has earned his rep. As you can tell, he despises this.
Yeah, and it almost went away, and then Rich brought it back. That fucking fucking dickhead.
And then it's up there. Someone sent their Purple Heart in for it.
Like, and I just can't. I feel like the only way to do it is to lean into it for the live shows and just be like General Zhukov from The Death of Stalin. Just throw off the cloak. Just have like a North Korean general uniform full of fake medals.
Well, when your grandkids start going through some of your stuff to learn about you later, though, you know, you think they're going to open that trunk up?
When all they have is the internet?
Yo, Grandpa was a badass!
So if
Grandpa stand bodies!
if I keep that in the attic,
Grandpa never talked about his service.
I think it was Connor was saying like, if I keep that in the fucking attic, I need to keep it with a Post-it note explaining to my kids the joke. Like, by the way, if you Google this, you're gonna get some conflicting information. They'll probably reply with, "What's Google?" But
Never bring it up. Just have an actual trunk hidden for your like great grandkids. It's like a uniform, a fake Medal of Honor, and some like random ribbons in there, and they're like, yo, Grandpa used to.
Yeah, go rent like a safety deposit box for like the next 200 years.
Wow, Grandpa really liked Wolfenstein. Look at this.
Fusion of the cosplay scene.
Yeah, wow. He's got the armbands and everything. That's it. That's kind of crazy.
He's got a cheat book. It's about the final solution.
Yeah. Dude, this dev looks crazy.
I didn't know Dad spoke German.
All alone? Now time to trim the old pubes.
Hey there, beach babe. Are you ready to soak up those summer vibes and get the perfect beach bod?
I don't have pants on.
Yeah, I noticed. Well, you're in luck, because our friends over at MANSCAPED.com have you covered from head to toe. With the Performance Package 5.0 Ultra, they'll have you looking and feeling good this summer. Trust Manscaped to unlock the confidence you need to turn heads this summer season. Join the 10 million men who already trust Manscaped and use discount code UNSUB at checkout to get 20% off your order plus free shipping. Let's make this summer your smoothest one yet.
Save me. Keep your ear and nose as tidy as your hedges. With the Weed Whacker 2.0 ear and nose head trimmer, you'll be looking classy as ever.
The updated Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra groin and body hair trimmer got a summer makeover. It's waterproof now for all those times you need to shave your groin or body hair at a pool party.
So get 20% off plus free shipping using code ONSUB at manscaped.com. The summer sun is here to stay, so trust Manscaped to keep those pubes at bay.
Welcome to the podcast, by the way. Dude, Clint showing up, he's like, because we've asked for a while to have you on, but you are not a big social media guy. You're like, oh, fuck that. And
Yeah, you can tell it's my social media. Just look at the picture and you're like, what the hell is this random stuff? It's like, no, that's probably Clint. And there's been no activity in 9 months. That's how you know it's me.
You are are you still doing oil field stuff or the military stuff with it?
Powered away from the oil field quite a few years ago, before doing the book, and then getting more involved with because that was the other thing with receiving the medal. I said at first I was super embarrassed. Just blatantly honest, it was super embarrassing because everyone's sitting there calling you a hero, saying, "Oh, what amazing things you did." And back in my mind, I'm sitting there, I'm like, didn't bring 8 guys back. Like those dudes are the heroes. Like I was a warrior, I was fighting alongside other great warriors, but to be called a hero and then all of a sudden have that be the center of attention, just was super awkward to deal with and process.
That's something that I'd love to go back to a little bit. If we can kind of reverse back to where you were saying that you were watching that PowerPoint, government issued PowerPoint, and you were informed that that's what they put you in for. What was your reaction to it in the moment?
In the moment, I just shut down. I just I turned everything off and just gotta sit there thinking, internalizing. It's just like, Mace isn't here, Gallegos isn't here, Kirk isn't here. Like, those dudes were freaking badasses, and they gave up more than anything I ever did. So why am I getting acknowledged? And that's just kind of what I gravitated back toward, was why, those guys literally gave up their life for me to be here. So why the hell am I getting the acknowledgement and the attention? Because I made it through. I got to come back home. I got to continue to live my life. And I know, the nation does need heroes and things to look up to, but as I continue to kind of gravitate back to, I still hate being called a hero, because for me, those are the guys that don't come home. Like, I was a warrior, and I'll tell you, like I said, it was bittersweet that day, because as nasty as things were, it was also one of the best days of my life, because I felt like I went through the most ultimate man test with some of the coolest guys I've ever been around, and we made it out on top. And that was also what I'd reflect back to. It's like, we used to talk kind of that last 9 months in country, the year getting out, when we would talk about the awards process and stuff like that, of guys getting silver stars and certain other guys talking about how cool or how badass they were that day, but the rest of us kind of like, were you though? And would sit there, and I remember, talking to Larson and Raz, and they're like, hey, yeah, we know what you did. Yeah, well, I know what you did. And like, that was just all we had to say sometimes, would be sitting there, Colorado Springs, hanging out, drinking at Hooters or something like that. You just kind of share those quick moments where you just look over at one of your buddies, and you just knew, I know what you did that day, and I don't need any public attention. There's no medal that you'd pin on our chest that would equate to what the same meaning was of that look between each other. So when that all, like I said, came to kind of the limelight, I wanted to just put my head in the sand and turn away. But I also realized I've also been given something that so many veterans never get. That's a platform, and that's the ability that when for whatever reasons, I keep going back to DC to go up on the hill, I get doors open, and I get to go get in front of congressmen and senators, and it's like, hey, look, fucktards, here's that's not getting taken care of.
Please tell me you use that exact language.
That's what goes on in the inner monologue.
Yeah.
Normally there's a filter process.
Well, sometimes. I think more of them need the internal monologue to become the external monologue.
Sorry, I meant retarded. I mean, you retards. It's like a dynamic. It is. Like,
politicians don't go to heaven. Sorry.
So I was like, you guys are all gonna get along so good with Clint. Homeboy loves the government so much.
The big flex I had was when John Boehner was still Speaker of the House.
Oh boy,
fucking smoking in his office.
You smoked?
Oh yeah, because John Boehner smoked like a freaking chimney too. So I got to go smoke in the. Well, he had already just gotten done smoking or something, but yeah, I got to smoke in the Speaker of the House's office one day.
That's kind of cool.
That doesn't fly anymore, I don't think, anymore.
Like, this is dope. Going through that, it is going back to like your feelings towards it, because that is one of the hardest things to put into words for a general person. It's like not wanting to accept something, because it is like, no, I did nothing for that. Especially you yourself is a very like selfless individual, and to have that where all the lights are on you, they fly you out, and then come to find out your battle buddies are the ones that also put in word for it, right?
So that's what I didn't realize till years later. It's like when I would talk to some of the guys going to and from the oil fields, catching up with them, we would talk about everything under the sun, and not once did they ever mention that they'd been approached or talked about an upgrade. And so after I'd gotten notified, I'm sitting there calling Raz and Larson and them up, and I'm like, hey, did the Army call you and tell you guys anything? And they're like, oh yeah, they called like, well, about a year ago or something. They just asked if they believed you did something good that should be awarded. They never said for what or what award, and we just said yes. like, well, that was kind of part of that. You didn't think you'd mention that all of a sudden I'm getting recommended for upgrade, and you got someone to call you from the Pentagon 8 months ago that said, hey, you think Sergeant Romesha should be, recognized for what he did on October 3rd? Oh, yeah, he should be. Like, that was like their whole conversation. I'm like, that would have been nice to know.
Those are
Well,
good.
they didn't
Cool.
say.
Just hang up and forget to
They're
tell
like,
you.
yeah, they didn't say, well, do you think Sergeant Romesha should be recommended for the Medal of Honor? No. They just said, do you think he should just be recognized for his actions? I was like, well, that's semantics right there on what they're really asking or not. But that was also part of the humbling thing, was to find out that the upgrade recommendation came from the guys that were actually there beside me. Like I said, it was very tough to accept it in the first place, but it was kind of really smoothed it over hearing that it was because of their recommendations, their firsthand accounts, that kind of kicked it up over the edge. I mean, I still sat back to this day, and I think, honestly, the two guys that deserved the medal from that battle was Hart, because when he left out the back of those barracks to try to go get Gallegos, that was the last time I'd ever see that dude. And unfortunately, with the awards process system, is you've got to have, especially for the Medal of Honor, you've got to have 2 living eyewitnesses that see you do what you did, and have to be able to read and write English to write that firsthand sworn statement account. And when Hart pushed up there to go get Mason Larson and them, when his Humvee got hit with that RPG, the only guy that survived that was Faulkner. But Faulkner came back, immediately got medevaced, came back to the States, and Faulkner was dealing with some demons prior to that deployment after getting shot in Iraq previous. And he ended up overdosing. So there was no eyewitness account, and it sucked because Hart, all we could get him was a Bronze Star that day.
No shit.
Just by Army regulation, since we didn't have those 2 eyewitness accounts. And I'd always kind of argued, him leaving out the back door, finding that 50 cal ammo, taking those guys over there, like that was the action right there. I said, I don't know how the whole awards process goes, but that was my kind of argument with it. And the other one, for sure, was Brad Larson. Larson, I truly believe, deserved the other Medal of Honor that day. He was stuck up at that Humvee with Gallegos and Mace and Ty Carter and Sergeant Martin. When those guys pushed out, he was trying to provide cover. Him and Ty were trying to provide cover for him. Wasn't able to do it. When Carter goes up and brings Mace, a little farther back to cover and puts the tourniquets on him, Larson's providing cover for Ty, and then him and Ty bring Mace back to the aid station. But then Larson comes back to me for the fight. Larson gets checked out, and he shows back up at the front gate area, and he's the one that tells us, hey, Griffin's just outside the door here. Last I seen Martin was here. Last I seen Gallegos was here. Have no idea where Hart was. And Larson then came back out in the fight, recovered Griffin, helped recover Martin, Gallegos, brought him back, and then when we couldn't find Hart's body, Larson was the dude that 3 times that day left his weapon, left his body armor, and left his Kevlar to run and do the frickin' bullet dance around that outpost to try and find Hart's body. And 3 times he just wasn't able to find him. And on the 4th time, I finally told him he couldn't. So that was the other thing that's always been in the back of my mind. It's like, me and Ty Carter's the other living recipient from that fight. But I've always looked at it. I've always thought that Larson and Hart should have been the 2 guys right there.
And it's just like going through that, and it's like it is something humbling to hear, because again, like anything I've done will never equate to that, and I never want to be put in that position. And you were lucky to be here because you stood up and then overcame crazy odds to, even save as many people as you do. I know it is that hard mindset to break. It's like, hey, this sucks because I lost this many people, instead of looking at it as like, hey, I saved this many people because it was through your actions and because you. I just
thought I just had a stupid idea though. It was like, man, we're getting our asses kicked. We can do something. It's like, oh, here's an idea. Let's go counterattack. These guys got us outgunned. They've got us outnumbered. They've got the high ground. And honestly, when I came up with that idea, it was just like, well, if we're gonna die, let's kind of dictated on our own terms. And again, that's what truly impressed me was I had those 5 guys that volunteered. Like, hey, we're going to go do this thing. And Raz, Delaney, Danley, Miller, and Jones, like those 5 guys are like, well, we're going. And don't have to. And they're like, we'll follow you anywhere. And it's like, well, why don't those 5 guys get acknowledged for, and I mean, and I'm not saying they never got their awards or anything, but I mean, that was just so impressive to see that you could get guys that would, I mean, that was truly a token of on a personal level, I felt like I was a good leader when you get 5 guys that'll say, I'll follow you anywhere. And that did it, that came up, recaptured the ammo supply point, was able to push the enemy out of the front gate, the Herrera building area. You know, that's truly special as, like I said, as a leader. That's, like I said, in the back of your mind, you're always thinking, I call it like that Braveheart moment. Like, could I ever be tied to that board as they were freaking ripping my guts out? And would I sit there and scream freedom into the face of those fuckers? Like, for me, that was those moments that day where I look back and it's like, man, that was going through the ultimate man test to say I could kind of check that block.
Even leading to it, for the people out there that don't realize even how shitty that fighting position was, and then you guys ran drills in your head where you're like, if we did this, this is how we would do this. Like, which probably led to a...
For those who don't know, because we were just talking about this earlier at brunch, like just how bad that fighting position was.
No, yeah.
For people who don't.
Dude, you were in a fish bowl.
Well,
yeah, you're just...
it was so bad. Like I said, my granddad had passed away by then, but like I said, I'm old school. I don't do social media, but I still pay all my bills by check and mail them.
My times have changed. So anyway, about a strategic fighting position.
So I wrote my grandma a letter home when we first got there, and it was just a simple, quick letter of, hey, Grandma, we're here, we're settled in, the guys' morale is high, everyone's looking good, we got 12 months here, and we'll be home soon. This place is so gorgeous, it reminds me of growing up in the Sierra Nevada mountains. Every morning I get to look up and see these beautiful mountains. And I sent that letter off, and a couple of weeks later, Grandma sent me a letter back that just said, what the hell are you doing looking up? Everybody knows you take the high ground. Like,
Grandma even
Graham knew. Like, that was not the most ideal location. I mean, you just sat at the very bottom of that valley, surrounded by mountains on all sides. Every time we'd go out and do patrols and stuff, you'd get just 100 meters up on the hillside, and you'd look down, and you were like, man, I can see everything. I can see LRAS 2. I can see the front gate. This is a badass fighting position. I can just bail over the back here. You'd never be able to shoot me. You'd go freaking 20 feet the next direction. It's like, oh, this is even better.
So that's how Graham got a consulting job at the Pentagon.
She easily could have.
Way better than that strategic fighting point.
What was their mindset? Did they just pick up? I don't know how that came to be.
So initially, from what I understand, like I said, I was a staff sergeant that I didn't make foreign policy. Like we got told where we needed to be, right?
Yeah.
But the research I've done since then it was just supposed to be this kind of stopping area in the natural terrain where they could get refuel, refit, and stuff going to the forces that were supposed to be continuing to attack north in Nuristan. But so that happened about right before 2003. They were pushing up in the Nuristan, and what ended up being known as Cop Keating was just really a grid spot coordinate that they could drop supplies in. Well, we kick off 2003 with shock and awe in Iraq. Now we're fighting a two-front war, and there's not enough beans and bullets and everything to fight two-front war. So they pause the attack in the north in Afghanistan, Nuristan area, and instead of giving up that terrain, they decided, well, we'll just hold on to this. We'll get back to this eventually. Well, eventually was 6 years down the road where we found ourselves there. So they didn't want to give up that stuff that was already fought for. And
what year did they say, hey, we don't want to fight for this? Is it 2003 you're saying?
Yeah, it was shortly after. It was like 2003, 2004.
6 years later is when it was like, oh yeah, and you're still there, and like, man, that is the U.S. military or government in a
nutshell. Well, I mean, even my dad, when he kind of found out, he's like, oh, I see we haven't learned anything from Vietnam.
Hamburger. I was telling the guys about Hamburger Hill. I was like, we will have a 90% casualty rate to take something that has no significance on the battlefield just to say we did it and then leave it after a week. You're like, yep, we did it. You're like, at night, there's like everyone's hurt right now. They're like, man, we got it though.
Yeah, I mean, well, you seen that with the pullout. I mean, that's exactly what the pullout ended up being.
Should never pull out.
Yeah.
I'm not
The only
familiar with
thing that
pulling
you
out.
pull out is the couch.
There we go.
I'm glad all of us feel the same way. No one at this table pulls out.
Got 6 kids.
Holy shit. Bro, pull out.
He's like, I
You didn't learn either.
motherfucker can't pull out of his own driveway.
That's why I back in.
So strategic 2009, right?
Yeah, and I mean, we were 2 weeks away from closing that place down and getting out of there.
Bring it up, Jamie. Bring it up right here on the screen.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thanks, Jamie. This is how
is here.
ridiculous this fighting position is that you're looking at right now.
They did not consult Obi-Wan Kenobi.
It's over, Anakin! I have the high ground!
No,
Take the high ground.
Anakin, come on,
Anakin.
come on, idiot.
They were He was Anakin.
Yeah.
You underestimate my power!
Well,
Episode 3 had come out by then. There's no excuse.
No, it worked the first time for Obi-Wan, though, when he was fighting Darth Maul. He didn't have the high ground.
Oh, fair.
That's true. Oh my God. My guy's a nerd. For not interneting much, you still got some nerd knowledge, my guy.
Got them DVDs.
Don't lie. It's VHS.
Laser disc.
You're still rewinding it after watch it. So bad fucking, literally the worst positioning possible. Imagine a fishbowl, and the bottom of that fishbowl is where you guys are based out of. And it's a cob, right?
Yep. So the only way in and out was by helicopter at that point. And oh, by the way,
What? I did not know that. Holy
yep,
what?
the road? Well, that's how the outpost got named, was by Lieutenant Ben Keating. They were trying to move, I believe it was the LMTV, back to Fall Bostic. Rolled over and killed Lieutenant Ben Keating, giving the name to the outpost. And that road was no longer serviceable logistically for the U.S. Army. Taliban had taken it over. It had been too narrow. It was just too treacherous. So helicopter was the only way in and out. And oh, by the way, our landing zone was outside of our perimeter, and it was in between 2 rivers that converged together. And so you kind of had to land in this peninsula.
It kind of reminds me of like a less advantageous Harper's Ferry, if you ever seen that area. But not to oversimplify too much.
No, I don't even know.
Harper's Ferry, Virginia, like that area, where there was like a military arsenal there during the Civil War.
Oh, okay. I was like, Brent, are you just...
No, just not naming just a random place.
It's just a fork in the river. He's like,
point in a war.
Crawfordsville, Indiana.
yeah. I grew up in Alabama. I grew up in Mexico.
Gary, Indiana.
I was like, I don't know what
Oh no, not Gary.
Not Gary.
But not to oversimplify it, but with what you just said earlier, wasn't the whole point of that location being chosen that it was a convenient middle ground for running supplies and things?
Yes, that's initially how it started.
With no way to get in or out
Yep.
except for helicopter.
Yep.
Just making sure I'm up to speed.
Yep.
Imagine that is, and that it's the military. Like, this is
Yeah.
Logistics.
this seems like a lot of logistics to get in and out of
Well,
that.
and so it's funny because, like I said, the Chinook pilots, and we're at elevation too, so we could only really get Chinooks, and Apaches only had enough kind of power to fly at that elevation.
You know how much cargo you could lift with an Apache?
Well, enough to bring 25 Mike, and Hellfires. We don't need you for your cargo, boys.
Drop the bullets.
So when they'd resupply us, though, those pilots knew that was a crappy spot to be, and at elevation, not having the power. A lot of times they would make every excuse not to resupply us. And we were pissed. Like, we would not get resupplied for ammo. Well, would normally get ammo and fuel and stuff, but any of the creature comforts, like they would make every excuse not to drop them, and would go weeks on end without getting resupplied with frickin' care packages or razors or
hot meals. You're probably literally every 3 weeks?
We got a hot meal kind of once. We got one meal once every 3 days, and it'd be either a breakfast or maybe a dinner. We got a shower once a week because our water supply issues were, not the most ideal. But we were, like I said, we were always so mad at those Chinook pilots. Like, oh, you frickin' weenies! You don't want to come here. You guys aren't hard. And
you can say other things than weenies if you.
I'm trying to be nice.
Brandon, use a nice word.
I don't feel like I'm in any place to call them anything, but like,
well, back in the day, there was a website called poopcenter.com. So we got on poopcenter.com and we sent them elephant dung.
Oh shit, yeah.
Because they're like, you guys, you're not bringing us supplies. So we thought, hey, what better thing? Now we fast forward. And Brad Larson gets direct selected by, I believe it was McChrystal to go OCS. And Brad ended up being a Chinook pilot. And so once he graduated Chinook school, went on his first Afghan deployment, flying helicopters, I got to ask him, like, come on, dude, tell me the truth. You were at Cop Gating. Were those guys little bitches? And he's like, I went through Cop Gating, and I'd tell you guys to go f*** off. I would not fly a Chinook into that valley. He's like, those guys were so badass to even show up the times they did to resupply us.
Because what is your sea level? Like,
we were at, now you got me thinking. I think we were like at 9,000 feet elevation.
Jesus.
And you're talking like, for the people that do not know this, like helicopters,
they're not like planes where they can just kind of.
You're looking at less air movement. They become unstable as fuck.
It's the old saying. It's like engineers hate helicopters because, like, okay, planes use the air. Helicopters beat it into submission. It's like that. It makes no sense. Like, theoretically, helicopters should not work, but somehow they do, and everybody's too afraid to ask questions as to why.
Because it's like gas, air, like all those little things. Even think when you're a 2-stroke engine, when you're like dialing in, like how much air it's taking in to not run too rich or anything. All that goes into account.
Just the engine, and then the blades don't have enough air density to push to keep the lift. And then with, like I said, with that valley and those two rivers, like any sort of wind gust that would knock them left or right, they're putting their blades into the side of a mountain.
And also think, anyone will say, you do not, if you're camping overnight or anything in the wilderness, it is not camp in the valley, because that's the coldest. That's where air travels through. That is the issue for everything. So helicopter, the least favorite place is right there at 9,000 feet of elevation, and trying to fight that and deliver one warm meal.
Yeah, that was, like I said, in hindsight, like, it was so amazing to see what they did. At the time, it was like, fuck you guys, you're getting elephant dung.
So they're dealing with that. You're dealing with that, and then you're like, okay, well, here we are, looking up at this beautiful.
They were beautiful mountains. I mean, if Afghanistan could ever get their shit together, that would be some of the best whitewater rafting, the best snowboarding. Like, those mountains, I still to this day are one of my favorite kind of memories to look at those mountains and think about them.
Mister, you be fine. Go down right raft. Mister.
Well, we might have had an incident where one of the local villagers were bathing their kids, and they lost it in the river. And all we could do was just call down to Fob Bostic, 30 kilometers away, and it's like, hey, if you find a baby floating through,
bathing?
They were bathing in it, and come, the big water rush time, like, you might accidentally, if you lose.
Yes.
Well, that was part of Larson's plan when they were stuck at that Humvee and they thought all of us were dead. Their whole plan was they were hoping for night to hit, and they were going to try to sneak to the river and just float back to Fob Bostic.
No shit.
Yeah.
So leading up to like everything, you were getting popped off like once a.
Yeah, about once a day. And like I said, every day was a little bit different, but typically it would be about 6 o'clock in the morning. We ended up calling that kind of our Taliban alarm clock. Some days it would just be a couple of rounds of AK fire. Just
I like Brand's like,
you gotta have terms for everything.
And that's a great
Hell of a phrase, yeah.
And then called something else over there.
And then, I mean, sometimes it hit you with the little sporadic AK fire on the east, and then all of a sudden RPGs, mortars, B-10 hitting you on the west. Like every day was something. Not every day was too intense, but it could be. And in fact, we found out right away it was actually better to be outside the wire on patrol than it was to be down in the outpost. We only took 2 engagements, direct fire engagements, outside of the wire the 3 months we were there. They didn't want to fuck with us if we were actually out on patrol, moving around and stuff. So we always loved being on patrol week because then you could kind of set the tempo and try to go after them. But yet, when you're only sitting there with 18 guys, we were very limited on how far they would let us patrol, and everything was straight up the frickin' mountainside. So even though like the village of Kamdesh as a crow flew on the map was like a kilometer and a half, to actually navigate the terrain ended up being almost 9 kilometers. Because there was one time they went after Sarnkirk and Gallegos and them went after that B-10 recoilless rifle they kept pounding us with. And of course, I'm a seasoned staff sergeant. I know better. I've got a Mark 19 position that I'd set up to help support them. And I'm like, I'll sit here on this and you boys go. And it was, you guys are still clear.
So I got to ask you, because I ask everybody who's ever operated one, did you love or hate the Mark 19?
It was always a love-hate relationship over and
Every time.
I mean, you just had to know how to treat her. And then when you didn't, she let you know. You never knew what it was going to be.
Like my bitch ex-wife.
Dumb. Thank you, Catherine.
If I ever buy a Mark 19, that's what I'm going to engrave on it. Bitch ex-wife. That's interesting because I've never had anybody who's ever said like it was okay. They always say they either love it or they hate it.
Yeah. Yep, all depended on the day. I know you can shoot 64 consecutive rounds out of it before you get yelled at.
That's the reel. That's a very short reel. I know this much. Wisdom from Clint Romesha, 2024.
That's fucking funny. Just like it reminds me, that's the sort of wisdom that, like the Ron White bit of like I know I've learned 2 things in my career. 1, you can't the babysitter, and 2, anything's a DUI checkpoint when you crash your car into it.
That's solid life advice.
Oh, I'm having so much fun right now. Like, just peak. So you're looking around, you're like, okay, here's all this shit. And again, what was the elevation change from your point to the top of the mountainsides, just for reference for the people up there, because this is insane.
I mean, there was part of the mountain where you could look at and trees were no longer growing. You hit the tree growth line.
You're looking at like 2,000, like 3,000 feet, like true.
I thought tree growth was like what was it, 16,000 or?
So 5,000 feet, you're looking at elevation. You cannot. You're like, this can look down at us.
Well, and sometimes it would be a little ambitious when we first got there, and like, we'll go to the top. Oh, we can see the top right there. And 4 hours later, you're like, I'm not even halfway to that. But now that I can see, that is not even the top. That is not even halfway to the top of the top. Like they just went forever. And in fact, when we're in there doing some Overwatch stuff, we had the spot and scope out, and we're looking where the trees aren't growing, and there was a family that was raising goats up there. And it's like, how do you raise goats? There's no vegetation. How the hell do you get water up there? I bet they hadn't seen human contact in a generation.
Imagine that. Like,
That's wild. I was watching a classic film last night about warfare, Lord of the Rings. And there's
true warfare.
There's a
They
lot
get
of
it.
mountains, like large mountains in that.
that's, I mean, literally what they were at Helm's Deep. But Helm's Deep was in a shittier bowl. And then it was orcs on every side.
They're in Helm's Deeper.
Helm's Deep.
Oh no. Helm's Deeper. Dude, Helm's Deeper. The Battle of Helm's Deeper.
Well, that's on Wikipedia now.
Those Urukai are everywhere.
It'll be in your Wikipedia for your
Shooting the Mark 19. You fucking Urukai. You dirty Urukai.
Sand Urukai are really strong. I told you you'd have fun, bud.
Not that I do sit-ups, but I'm definitely not going to have to do sit-ups after this.
Oh, my God. Well, that's the, 43rd slur we've invented on the podcast. Sand Urukai. We're alarmingly good at that.
It's a great new shirt.
It's a picture of a Tuscan Raider with an AK.
Clint's like, I don't know if I regret this shit.
It's like I was on Fox News yesterday.
Fuck. Oh my God, I love this so much. Right back at home, right?
Right back at home.
All right, not to press on the MOH thing too much. I had one serious question for you. I didn't get to ask it to you last time we were together. So Eli, he has a Purple Heart. He gets his little gay ass parking space. Right. All right. What benefits do you get with MOH?
It's state to state. Like I know here in Texas, like you can get a license plate, but your number is based off what recipient you are in the state of Texas.
Really?
Yeah.
What's yours?
I don't live in Texas, so I don't know.
Damn it.
Yeah, so I can't remember.
If it's 69, you need to move.
Yeah,
I would move.
do it. Yes. I do it just to register and then leave.
Thank you.
Just be hanging on the wall afterwards. So, well, we get invited to inaugurations.
That's cool.
So that's
Do you get a plus
the
one?
last time wasn't a cool perk, but this time is going to be.
This is going to be pretty rad.
This one's going to be.
Do you get a +3?
He's my service support, Eli.
Stop barking, Eli.
He clearly is wearing a vest that says "Don't pet."
He's working.
It's my service.
You get a
Yard worker.
priority on space available flights.
Fuck.
It's another, I guess, perk.
I guess. Thanks, Delta, Spirit.
Wait, do you
Airlines.
always if there's space, you get first class?
No. I mean for like military flights, space
beautiful
flight.
flights.
Oh, yeah. We're all jumping aboard on those ones. And then other than that, you get TRICARE for life. So you get retirement.
The bare minimum medical care.
You got to pay for your own dental and vision. Yes.
Wait, for real?
Well, it's just like being retired. Retired insurance.
Get out of here. You have jank ass teeth. You just save the word. They slide it a bill over. Start taking the teeth back.
Man, if this is the best country on the planet, I can't imagine how bad the rest are, man. Imagine, I always make that joke where I'm like, man, I just know all the gripes and the failed logistics of the American military and all the things that we just suck at. Imagine having to rely on the Indian military.
Jesus. No.
Going to S1 for customer support. Sorry, sir, we lost your lead form.
I need fire on this grid coordinate. Sir, yelling at me is not going to make this go any faster.
You get a medal for calling in service.
I need an A10 on the... Hello, my name is John with A10.
I'll call for fire for 5 hours.
Jesus. Do not redeem.
Why do you hit?
Didn't see this podcast go in this direction, man, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Hilarious, though.
Oh, I kind of want to go. I kind of want to go in bed with the Indian Army now and get on a radio.
They're asking you for help, and you're like, oh, Uno reverse. We tried turning it off and back on again.
Have you unplugged it? Oh, so perks.
Yeah, all the perks. Flights and shit. College.
Jesus Christ.
So a lot of it's actually driven from the states, depending on what state you live in. Kind of depends on what kind of additional benefits you get. Honestly, that's one of the weird things when you meet someone that has no clue what the Medal of Honor is. The first thing they come back with is, "Oh, is that like a Purple Heart?"
Kinda. That's what you reply with.
Which is a little,
Just a little different.
But I mean that a lot of the benefits that it's given out either by the federal government or the states are all kind of tied to the Purple Heart stuff. So I can see definitely the confusion on. I mean, it's such a rare award, and we go out and we talk about ourselves all the time, and totally brag about. I got a burp.
Bless you.
Oh, that's got some hang time. So like we.
Just like whipped it away real quick.
So we don't do a good job of really kind of explaining to the average, I think, civilian that doesn't have kind of a direct connection to the military of what really the Medal of Honor is. They've got this idea, but since I said everything they think about is, Purple Heart or Navy SEALs or, Green Berets, stuff like that. It's hard for the average, I think, civilians sometimes to wrap their head around what the Medal of Honor truly is. As you look at the numbers, and I'm giving general numbers here. Don't go off Clint's actual thinking ability and statistical points. I think there's been about 26 million that have worn the uniform of the U.S. Out of the 26 million, it's what 30, just under 3,600 have received the medal.
3,600.
And out of that, 60% have been awarded it posthumously.
Yeah.
So it's such a
40% that's alive. 36.
And right now, I think we've got
1,400 living. Like that were issued it
from Civil War till now that ever lived
in the last 200 years.
Yeah.
You've had 1,440 people actually alive receive that. To put that in perspective of how rare that is. Again, out of how many? 30 million, you were saying 26 million?
Yeah, it was like 26, 28 million, I think. That.
And you were saying that the Medal of Honor was first created in the Civil War?
Yes. Came out of the Civil War after the Andrew Raiders. They stole a locomotive from the South, ran it up north, destroying the rail lines.
Was that the Great Locomotive Chase?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. And that was... I want to say I think the Navy was the first awarded or developed it. Then the Army came. Then because each branch of service has their own.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yep.
It's still to this day.
Yep. Okay. So each of the three or not three branches, but the Army, Marines, and Navy have their own, and their designs are a little different. Of course, Navy, Marine, Coast Guard fall under that. Air Force now I think can incorporate the Space Force, and then the Army's had theirs.
I would love to see what kind of shit you got to do to get a Medal of Honor in the Space Force.
Oh, that's gonna be rad. You fucking alien.
You're Ripley.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wait, the alien fucks you?
Uh-oh. I think you downloaded the wrong Alien movie.
Damn it.
Not again.
Again? No. I know the Navy's Medal of Honor is a giant penis, so other than that, I don't know what the other branches would be.
I'm learning a lot. I didn't know that about each branch having their own Medal of Honor. It would help me learn it a lot better, though, if you put this into a concise PowerPoint. Projected it in the back. I would really absorb that information a lot more.
If we could just get our PowerPoint behind us, Eli.
Yeah, that's
learn
next.
everything.
We're going to charge a lot of money for that.
Next slide.
Overcharge for that. There's lots of money dumped into that. Okay. Unsub will get so much viewership once we turn to power slides.
And this is what? I don't know.
Yeah, each.
Where was that going?
You don't want to know what the internal monologue was saying.
Oh, I would love to.
Moving on.
The audience out there would also love that.
Just thinking of a Tusken Raider with an AK.
The sand people.
Those fucking sand Urukai. My thing is anything can be a slur if you put you in front of it.
I'm just saying.
Oh, God. That Tosh skit.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God.
You fucking spoon faces. Oh, it was like, who's that me?
He's just making up slurs, and he's got like a crowd of
panel.
people.
Yeah,
the panel. Who finds this? Raise your hand if you find this offensive. Just made up slurs.
Spoon. Wait, go on.
Dirty f***ing sand Urukai. Anybody find that fucking offensive?
Raise the hands.
Spoon faces does sound
The Tusken
very
Raider in the
rich.
back.
Hands. Show me those hands. All right.
Not you, Anakin.
Hand.
Jesus fuck. I never know. I'm like, where do we go? I was like, I'm gonna put it back on the story path. It's like, here, we've had our nice fun breaks.
It's always funny seeing the graph of like where a conversation goes and unsubscribe. It's like, where do you think it's going? Where it goes. It's all the
Michael
fuck
J.
over the
Fox
place.
draw that line?
It's my favorite quote, I think, from his book. He's like, advantages of having Parkinson's. It's like, I don't have to buy an electric toothbrush. So he's like, I just put toothpaste on the motherfucker and let it go.
Got to look at the positives.
Always look on the bright side of life, you know?
Holy shit. Oh, he's living his best life. Fuck. Okay, we'll go back on to. Wait, okay. I know. You, like how we can. You kind of talked about it. You're telling a story. You've told it many times. You gave different accounts of it even here. Like, hey, at the end of it, this was my buddies. This is where they were placed. And then you, because your actions throughout that is going into a leadership position. You were, how much of a leadership role were you before that event?
So I had been the senior scout in that scout platoon and section sergeant for 4 years. I was not an overachiever.
I'm fine here, brother. They would ask you to. They're like, "You want to go up?"
Well, and so that day I was the acting platoon sergeant because our platoon sergeant had already rotated back on mid-tour leave.
No shit. Oh wow. For people in the military that deployed, that is fucking wild to have that happen during mid-tour leave for a NCO in that position.
And well, the double entendre of that, I hope I'm using that correctly, was my lieutenant.
I dropped out of high school.
My lieutenant was the on-the-scene commander that day because our troop commander, Stoney Portis, got taken away the night before. And he was a brand new lieutenant, first time overseas. He ended up being the on-the-scene commander.
So for anyone out there, this is Cody, for you guys here. Imagine
fuck, how do I put this in term? What the?
You put in the backup quarterback and
It's like if we had Shane Gillis on the podcast and none of the core hosts were here.
Almost. I mean, yeah, you're having these individuals that have. You've been here. We've been here forever. We have Chase. Actually, good example. Chase is just editing for a day. He comes to the podcast. We're like, hey, we're tapping out. And then all of a sudden it's like, we need a podcast done. And then also we just hired a brand new person that no one's ever heard of. And then they also have to then step into a leadership position and be like, hi, hello. You all have to record a podcast. This is your manager stepping away for 2 weeks with, like, it's a preconceived 2 weeks, but then a new manager that is secondary is stepping up also at the same time that you just met that day. That is how that works. It is brand new bosses are in this role. One, you kind of know, you being that one, but it is somebody not meant for that to stand up and be like, hey, now you're in control of everyone. Plus this new dude is also standing up in control of everyone.
Your analogy makes me angry.
It should. This is, I mean, it is, it's probably because I did it bad, but also it's new people just standing up.
No, it's not about the analogy in general. It makes me angry that you didn't explain that better to me because I'm a retard.
He's just,
no, I understand exactly.
He's just mad you're talking.
I know. I would be too. He's like,
you like, stop.
I got hit with a beer.
No, that's
Brandon and the Browns are talking again.
Jesus Christ, dude. I'm surrounded by
Why do they talk so?
You wonder why I don't talk. All these fucking brown people on this podcast.
I speak English, goddammit.
You can speak American, that'd be really cool. Guess who's in office now?
Gonna load you up in that trebuchet over the wall.
You deport me and Brandon.
Like T-minus 2 months, you fucking brownie.
I'm so happy.
Anyways, officers suck no matter what branch they're in.
That's a synopsis. It is putting people in charge. It's like one kind of knows, but it's not to that level, and the other is a brand new guy that's just like thrown into the.
They just fucked off and left you.
They don't have a chance. It's actually mandated.
It's not. Like I said, it's one of those things when things go bad. It's not just because one or two things happen. It's a multitude of things. And Bunderman, who was my lieutenant, so he was a senior officer for us on Combat Outpost Keating at the time. And because we had leave and stuff and guys rotating through, it's just the way it happened to be. And the day before, Stoney Portis, our new commander, had just gotten there. He was taking over the troop. He is doing sensitive item inventories, goes up to OP Fritchie. Helicopter gets shot at. They won't bring him back to us. He calls up Bunderman the night before, and he's like, hey, you've got the outpost until I get back in about a day or so. And then 6 o'clock in the morning, the next day, that's when Bunderman all of a sudden he's the commander. Like I said, he'd been in for, we had the advantage that we worked together in that train up going to Afghanistan for almost a year, which was pretty rare to have an officer that long, especially in a platoon leader position. But, it's one of those things you don't think you're going to be that guy until you're that guy, and Bunderman ended up being our guy. And I'll tell you, to this day, I wouldn't have anybody else in that tactical operations center besides him. I mean, it came to the point at one time, I remember going in, and he's sitting there, and he's got like this book, and he's reading this book, and of course I'm like, hey, sir, what the fuck you doing reading a book? We're kind of getting shot at right now, you dumb lieutenant. And as he looks up, I can see he's reading the Army's call for fire manual. And he's like, hey, I'm about to start bringing 500 pounders 100 meters away from our position. There's like a good 90% chance, because of sitting in that bowl, it'll probably land on us. And I just remember looking at it, and I'm like, I'd rather it be our bombs than theirs. And he's like, okay. And him and Schroed started calling in 500 pounders, dropping them 100 meters away, because they also knew that the Taliban was trying to get in tight on us, and typically coalition forces wouldn't call for artillery or indirect fire on yourself. But because of them doing that, it gave us just enough breathing room. They couldn't continue to kind of tighten that noose around us. And it was at risk versus reward. And I know, like, what a pair of balls you got to do something like that. And Bunderman had those balls, big brass ones that he'd bang them together in stormy weather and
make that sound. That is a good, and that's a butter bar at that time. Or is
no,
it
he had
first
been
lieutenant?
promoted to first lieutenant by then.
First lieutenant. So
Yep.
in the military for a year. So this is for reference. You have been in college for 4 years, and then you are in service 1 year, and now you are doing that kind of level of call where you're like, hey, your NCOs are telling you, it's like, what the fuck are you doing? Because a lot of officers, even captains, you're listening to your NCO. You're listening to your higher enlisted, and you're like, hey, like, what should I do right now? And for him to be like, I'm calling for fire for J dams, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah. On my in 100.
At 100 yards
Yeah.
Yep.
is wild.
Those we've talked about on the podcast, like we'd be in the Streckers, like call for fire. We'd call J dams in to drop bombs on like bridges or houses, and we'd all stand up like 500 yards away and be like, oh wow,
You just feel that.
yeah. And you guys were like, yo, don't worry, you don't have to look. You're gonna see wherever this bitch lands.
So he was so ballsy that he might have, because we'd gotten our radios taken out. They knocked out our generator, so our FM comms didn't exist anymore. So we were talking most of the day on TACSAT, and of course, anybody in the world that's tuned into TACSAT can listen in. And in fact, a lot of our former buddies and rear detachment guys back at Fort Carson were hearing all the radio transmissions live and in real time back at Fort Carson, because the only link we had for help was on the Afghanistan's tactical satellite frequency.
Shit.
Yeah, so Bunderman's talking on that, and he might have said, allegedly, shake and bake the village of Armul. And he brought in a B-1 bomber, as we discovered that Larson and Carter were still alive with Mace. He brought in a B-1 bomber to give some bomb support and coverage as they grabbed Mace to bring him back to the aid station with a B-1 that went Winchester 800 meters away from our position. And I think a B-1, the bone, carries like 26,000 pounds of munition.
They just dumped it.
They just dumped it on that village. And I'm going to caveat, that village was cleared out. The Taliban had kicked all the civilians out of there, taken that town over that morning. There were no civilians in that village. It was all enemy, but he dropped literally 26,000 pounds of bombs in the village of Armul to give Larson and Carter that freedom of maneuver to get Mace back to the aid station.
Because you got a call saying like, hey, because you thought you lost both, like 2 individuals, and then you got a call. It's like, hey, we have them still, and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, we'd been cut off. Like I said, things went from bad to worse. And at that point, when we started the counter assault, we'd been cut off from Larson, Gallegos, and those guys out to the west for like 6-7 hours at that point. Thought they were all gone. Thought the enemy had either taken their bodies or the worst was happening. And as we pushed up, got to the ammo supply point, kicked the enemy off that, opened that up to feed everybody else ammo, and then got up to the front gate area. We're sitting there kind of in a holding pattern, waiting to make our next push. When we get the call, thinking that Larson, who I'd served with on my second Iraq deployment, and like I said, me and him were, boys. Actually, I'd just seen him last week in Omaha.
What's up, bro?
Actually, I'm gonna give a highlight story. So that was October 3rd. Larson just had his youngest son, Solomon, October 3rd of this year.
Nice.
To tie back in, great things still happen coming into the future. So when he gets to look at October 3rd now, he gets to look at his son Solomon and think, look at the great things that are happening. But to caveat back, thought Larson had long been dead. I said, love that brother to death. Thought he was just over and done with. Hadn't heard from him in hours and hours and hours. And then I get the call on the radio. Bunderman's like, you won't believe this, but Larson and Carter are still alive. Mace is badly wounded. If you can provide covering fire to the north, I'm going to bring in a B-1 bomber to the village of Armul to the west. And as soon as you hear the bombs drop, when they call shot over the radio, push out, provide covering fire to the north, and they'll bring Mace back. And sure as shit, we hear shot over, waiting for splash. We push out, start engaging off to the north, and bombs start hitting. I mean, it was like being in the frickin' bass drum at a Metallica concert. Like, it was lifting, all those bombs hitting was just lifting that rooftop off that building. We were trying to take us kind of some cover, and then Larson and Carter come running through with Mace on a stretcher. Larson gets back to the aid station, calls me up a few minutes later, and he's like, hey, medics have checked me out. They say I'm good to go. Where you at and what do you need? Like I said, this is I remember this moment so vividly after, like I said, all the other stuff that has gone on. Is Larson calling me up and saying, hey, where you at? What do you need? And I'm like, it's been a long day. I'm kind of thirsty and I haven't had a cigarette yet. And like 5 minutes later, here comes fucking Larson with a 12-pack of Dr. Pepper under one arm and a carton of Camel Lights in his hand. And he shows up and we give each other just a big ass hug. Open up the Dr. Peppers, crack one of those, start drinking, spark up a smoke. And it was like, okay, this is going to be, we're going to make it out of there. Like that moment, just sitting there in that Shure building. I mean, there's still shit going on. And it's just like, yep. It's just going to be all right.
I don't think people understand, like the average person understands the level of ordnance you're talking about. 26,000 pounds of bombs for one. But the other that I'm still hung up on is you're talking about dropping a 500-pounder of high explosives a football field away from you.
Yeah.
That's insane to me. Like that is, there's danger close and then there's whatever the fuck that is.
Yeah. Well, so danger close, I mean, is you think about it, for every pound of explosive, you want a yard of distance. That's kind of the rule of thumb.
So you're well beyond danger close. You are well beyond danger close. Holy shit! And these are like
that's like eat an
pounds.
avocado at the end of the day distance. Like that's
it's a very distinct taste.
Yeah,
I just like it is so military. In that midst of everything, you're just like, oh man, it's Dr. Pepper and cigarette.
I just want to smoke.
Dope, dog. That cherry just burning bright, and you don't give a.
It's middle of the day.
The snipers can see me. I don't give a fuck.
They haven't hit me yet. This lung cancer is gonna get me.
Same mindset across everything. When you're in that situation, like I don't give a fuck. Like, this shit.
It's like, oh, this sucks so bad. They're gonna have to drag my body back. I'm too tired to walk. Just shoot me right now.
Holy fuck, dude. That is, I mean, and then it is, how long was that actual full engagement for everything to be done before they were like, hey, because they were inside the camp at this point.
They were inside basically within the first hour.
They are inside the cob at this point. That's what's crazy is it's not like they're pushing in. They are already inside and you're having these battles inside the cob. Yeah. And how big is the cob in total you're talking about?
The whole cob was east to west was the longest, maybe about 200 meters. And then north to south was maybe about 125 to 150 meters. So not a very big space.
And they're already inside the wire at that point.
And like I said, within that first hour, they'd breached by kind of that 2 hours. They had started burning down most of the buildings. We only owned Red Platoon Barracks, the Tactical Operations Center, and the aid station for most of the day.
You said it was like 30 or 40% was under your control. The rest was under enemy
control. They cut us off from, like I said, the mortar position out to the west. We'd lost contact with Sergeant Brading and his guys out there. Cut us off from Gallegos, breached that whole front gate, and then toward the east was where we had about 35 Afghan Army guys, and that was kind of their side of the base. First contact, most of those guys just dropped their weapons and walked away. So left that whole east, and that's where the first breach came through, was the whole eastern side. They just walked on through because there was no one there to defend it other than we had Copus, who was one of our young specialists. He ended up being the only gun left in the fight that day on a Mark 19, holding off that whole eastern side of the camp. Damn. He sat in that Humvee for 14, 15 hours, and most of the time by himself, just because we couldn't really normally would put someone kind of out there by him to help provide like some covering fire when he was reloading. But in the position you had to normally you could get away with putting him in, was so triangulated and surrounded. Anybody outside of that up armored Humvee was going to get blasted. Copus at least had the advantage of, and I use that term loosely, advantage of being in that up armored Humvee, setting down low enough they just couldn't quite shoot over the kind of side rails of the turret to kind of finish him off if they had the chance. And like I said, he sat there for 14 hours, lost radio comms 3 or 4 times. He thought he was the only person still alive on the outpost for a few hours, and like I said, no one would have ever blamed him for being like, well, fuck you guys, I'm going home. Let me sneak back to go find someone else still alive or someone to talk to me or anything. He literally sat there just slinging rounds, all day.
God, just like
Let me load this bitch again.
She's being a dirty whore today. Thunk, 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 thunk.
I haven't made it to the 64 round mark where they yell at me.
63, I'm good. That fourth one, that comes with the yelling.
That's the son of a bitch.
I don't want him to get in trouble now. Holy shit. And then at what point, because you also took it was an RPG shrapnel, or what hit you? And then it was in your arm,
Yeah, the right side. So it came to a point, like I said, things were going from bad to worse. Still had contact with Gallegos and Larson and them out toward the west on that LRAS 2. Larson had already gotten the 50 cal blown out of his hands by an RPG, no longer operable. The 240 that was out there that supported 2 had long ran out of ammo, and basically those 5 guys were just in that Humvee kind of holding on. So myself and Specialist Gregory had a machine gun, Mark 48, and we were able to sneak over and look out toward the west. And we only had about 200 rounds because, like I said, we'd already been cut off from the ammo supply point. This was kind of the last of the ammo we had left for that gun. And threw that up on the 60K generator and had Gregory feeding the gun for me. And I remember just looking out, and this is probably like the first 30 to 45 minutes into the fight at this point, and looking out toward the west, and I mean, you could just see they're like ants coming down the hill. I mean, every direction you're looking, there's yuck. They don't run fast.
They weren't sending the best. They're shooting at our pod racers. Little Annie, great guy. Sorry, I feel like that needed a little levity.
So open up, and like coming like ants down the hill, and it's just going from target to target to target. Just there's so much going on. It's like, well, I'll just start aiming that way and gonna hit something. And at that time, I'm sitting there and trying to call Gallegos and them. Still got FM comms, and it's like, hey, you guys need to move. You can move now, providing covering fire. And Gallegos is just coming back, and he's like, brother, you can't bring enough fire. Like, we need close air support. We need mortar rounds. We need more than just one machine gun.
If just for reference, sorry to interrupt, but if like, what's the rough, like the count of enemies at that point? Like, how many dudes are you guys going up against
versus yourself?
At that point, I mean,
the ratio, I guess.
It would have been just thinking of the targets. I mean, there had to have been over 50 on that west side going against, our one machine gun, but they got the high ground, they got cover. I know after everything was all said and done, they said it was probably about 400 fighters that hit us that day.
And then what was your total capacity on the base?
We were sitting at 50 Americans and 2 Latvians.
That's what's insane. You have like that many, and it's not. This is firearms and people that are used to fighting in that terrain.
Well, and I mean those guys, those weren't like you're just, hey, let me grab an AK and show up today and
squirters. They're not squirters.
Yeah, they're sitting there and they're fixing you, and you can see them try to flank your left. They're flank because that's what ended up happening is we're engaging out toward the west, trying to get Gallegos and them to move. Didn't realize that they'd breached that front gate just off to our right, and they snuck in an RPG team just to our right, maybe 30 yards away.
Holy shit.
And luckily that RPG was made on a Friday or something at the end of work. Because they touch it off and it comes in just a little low, and the generator takes most of the blast. So blows me over onto Gregory. We kind of fall down. Remember grabbing him, kind of picking him up, dusting him off. Hey, are you good? He can still move and stuff. And told him just take off running, bud. And I grabbed the machine gun, threw it back up on what was left of the generator, took care of the problem to the north, out by the front gate. He takes off. I throw in the last 100 rounds we got. I just remember calling back to Gregory, and I'm like, brother, you guys have got to move, and you got to move now. I cannot hold this position. I'm almost out of ammo, and I'm just sitting there just trying to lay it down as hard as I can. And Gallego's just calling back, and he's like, brother, we can't go anywhere. They got us pinned too hard. I mean, they were just getting pounded from every which way. Like I said, I just remember his last little bit of ammo comes through that feed tray cover, and give him the last call. And it's like, if you don't move now, you've got to move now. And he just calls back, and he just gives a simple, well, be here when you get here, brother. Like, we just kind of knew that was going to be what it was. And it was just shitty because it's like, man, if these roles were reversed, I knew this motherfucker was coming to get me. And I just felt like I abandoned him at that point because it's like, I always had a good mindset of, I used to tell my guys, like, dead bodies attract more dead bodies. I don't want you coming out and try to save someone. Kill the enemy first. Because if you don't kill them and eliminate the threat, if you go out there in a blaze of glory, well, let me go help my buddy that's down, you're just going to be the next guy down. So kill the enemy first. As much as it sucks to sit there and listen to your buddy say, hey, help me, come save me, it makes no tactical sense to do that until you've eliminated the threat. And at that point, I knew I wasn't going to go run across 200 meters to go, or 150 meters to go find Gallegos and try to drag them back. It was just like, I don't have a machine gun anymore. My position's compromised, and I'm going to go displace back and figure something else out. But just to hear him say, we'll be here when you get here, gave me that reassurance that he knew I would eventually, if I could still do it, come back to get him.
That's the hard part of leadership. It's that making the right call, because you have to say it is the hardest part of leadership, is that single moment where, thank God a lot of people do not have to go through it, is the hard choice. It's like, hey, you want to, no matter what. It's like, hey, I want to do this. It's just strategically the worst option. And that's where you have to you have to bite that bullet and live with it, but understand it is the right choice at the end of the day.
There's, as I used to say, like, there's no right choices sometimes, but even a bad choice is better than no choice. Like to make no decision, to make no kind of decisive movement will get you killed every time, where at least a bad choice or a bad decision, you can hopefully learn from that, but at least you're doing something to make a difference. And I mean, Butterman, again, going back to him, when he had to make that call of Alamo position, he knew he was going to be isolating like 9 guys. When he made that call, it's like, anybody that can hear this, you get back to these 3 buildings and we'll hold these. But if you don't get back, I'm sorry, we can't send anybody out. We're literally cutting off the mortar position. We're cutting off LRAS 2. Like, you've got to get back. And if he wouldn't have made that call, and I know that weighs heavily, like you said, on a leader, to sit there and be like, do I continue to try to fight this kind of broken shamble of stuff, or do I make that call to say, hey, if you can make it back, you make it back. If you don't, you don't. But at least the guys I get back, I can figure out where to go with them next.
It's where the right call is still objectively shitty.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's no right call, but you got to make a call.
Yeah.
So it's the hardest part in any of that stuff. And then being able to do that, even for him, like, what that means he was in for a year at that point? You were in 6 years?
No, I was in. Shit.
You were a decade at that point.
I was the old guy. I was a whole 28 years old back then.
Which is wild, making those decisions at that age.
Yeah, Bunderman, he had been in headquarters troop before coming to us. So he did have a little more time than the average lieutenant did. But I mean, yeah, he'd probably only been in it maybe 3 years from the time he got done with ROTC to Bullock and all his officer training stuff. I mean, 3 years to make those kind of decisions.
It's a lot. And then not, especially officer side, you don't know what you're getting attached to. You're just thrown to the winds of the military. And then did he even have his Ranger tab yet? Perhaps, or no?
Butterman was not a... I love that guy to death.
But you're like, homeboy made some right choices. Yep. Ranger school was not one of the ones he was going to make.
He was one of the greatest lieutenants I ever had, because when he showed up and he's like, I got a history. I've got a major in history. I like to party and have fun. If you guys don't make me look like an asshole, I'll make sure all the paperwork's taken care of.
A good officer right there.
Great officer right there. Like, he was not going to be the next General Patton, or he came in to do his time, to get his college paid for, and then move on.
That's wild. And then closing that up, how bad was your personal wound? Like, because you took shrapnel from the RPG, and then you were like still fighting with that afterwards, and just like, hey,
it was just kind of a peppering on the right side. The major thing was just kind of a hole in the forearm. It wasn't a through and through. It just kind of was there.
That was shrapnel?
Yep.
Okay.
The shrapnel from the RPG, and then of course just a lingering of. They still come out every now and again in the shower. It's like, what the hell is this?
The little.
Yep. It's like, yeah,
sorry, Brandon. It's funny.
What's up?
It's funny. Crispy, all the dudes. It's like if they've been blown up by an IED or something. It is like, oh yeah, it slowly pops out, and you're like, fuck.
As more time has gone on, less has came out, and it's like, oh, I'm glad most of that generator cowling though is freaking aluminum, because that's non-ferrous and it doesn't detect in a metal detector very well.
You just get stopped by TSA like, look, it is a long story.
So you just fought on right after that. You're like, okay, slight patch up and then push it through, close it off.
When I came back, like I said, finished up that 100 rounds, the last we had, and I started displacing back to the barracks, and that's where my other buddy Raz, like this 6'5" Minnesotan, he's kind of standing there, kind of by the 6'5".
Jesus,
he's a big fucker. That's why I would put him as number 1 guy on the stack team, so he could absorb all the bullets. These are the tactics.
Good looking fun.
He was the one that when I came down, displacing back, sitting there just trying to get a quick sit rep, and he's like, looks down at me and he's like, "You got a hole in your arm, dude." And I look and I'm like, "Oh shit." So then he pulls out my Israeli dressing, stops the bleeding, gets it all wrapped up. And then we fast forward, it's like an hour or two later, and I'm sitting there in the tactical operations center, still trying to figure out what's going on next. And all of a sudden I can't feel my hand anymore. So I'm sitting there trying to manipulate my fingers to get them working again. And First Sergeant Burton comes over and he's like, "Hey, are you all right?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I don't think my hand's working anymore." And he goes, "Let me look at it." And he pulls my hand to the side and he starts unwrapping my Israeli dressing. And he goes, "Who the fuck put this on you?" I'm like, "Well, Raz did." He's like, "He knows this is a dressing, not a tourniquet." He had put it on so tight that I was losing the use of my hand because of circulation, not because of the injury.
Just looking at it. Thank God it's all aluminum. Otherwise, the MRI would be real awkward.
You make him do push-ups.
No.
Smoke the shit out of him mid.
How many times have we... It's like, bro. Did you put 2 feet on that as you're tugging it?
Like, Joe, oh, that feels way better. Thank God it's my right arm that I use for everything.
We call that the finisher. The left is the sustainer.
You've unlocked the mysterious stranger perk.
Holy shit. This is where I want to transition to. You actually brought this. You actually introduced it by throwing at Brandon before you even shook his hand.
Hell of an introduction, by the way. That's pleasure to meet you.
What'd you get tossed at, Brandon?
I don't know. It just came at me so fast. No, it's like a legitimate, a replica.
So you get 2, right?
Yeah.
We'll go into that after.
Because you get what is the real one? What occasions would you use that? Just like if you're actually in a formal event or.
No. So the original one's the one that the president gives you, and then you get the duplicate as a backup.
Right.
For me, my original, I donated it back to 4th ID. So it's setting at 4th ID division headquarters.
Oh shit.
That's why I rock the duplicate, because I don't have the original anymore.
4th ID,
really
you could
cool.
send that to the unsubscribed podcast. We put it back there like, now it's ours. Go yourself, Clint.
That little guy, don't worry about that.
That's Brandon's.
Fuck off. No, that's actually really cool. I didn't know what the protocol was, like what people did with it.
Yeah, that's like I said. You only get issued a total of 2, and like I said, the first one that's issued has your name, your rank, your location of action, and then the date it was issued. And that's the one that I keep hitting this damn microphone. That's the one the president actually puts around you, and then the duplicates as a backup.
Are you able to buy more duplicates later? Like if you lost it,
You can get more ribbons, but the actual award itself, no.
got it.
No
Okay.
shit.
Yep.
They're
That's
like,
wild.
if you were
He threw
bad,
that at you.
I'm like, now I feel really good that I caught it.
he was surprised he caught it.
but
He's
they
like,
do-
wow, you caught it.
But they do have an FBI task force, though, if it gets lost or stolen, that will go
No
track
shit.
it down. Yep.
Oh, what?
Yep.
No
So if you're mad at someone, you'll just
Leave it in their
just like leave it in their car.
It's not a Apple AirTag, but like,
It is. It's not.
So last year that might have happened where I'd met a National Guard first sergeant. We were at the Masters, and we'd met after going to the Masters, having a great time, hanging out, and I decided to drop it into his gift bag, thinking he was coming back to where we were having this after party out. I didn't realize he was driving 45 minutes in a different direction.
I love how much you don't give a fuck.
Where we might have had to call him, and it's like, hey, I can't remember the kid's name. I'm so terrible spacing. I'm like, hey, where's First Sergeant Knight? I thought he was going to be here. I'm like, oh no, he had to go back home at the. I was like, oh well, he might have my Medal of Honor in his gift bag. So needless to say, he had to drive 2 hours out of his way
Asshole.
just for my
No person's going to question you.
Hey, where's your gift
That's even the
bag?
better part. No person you call. It's going to be like, you shit bag. They'll be like, who, big, who, Clint? And be like, mother.
Where's your
God.
gift bag? Oh, I threw it away, man. Why? Why are you asking?
I don't know. Left it a while ago. So, needless to say, we didn't have to call the FBI on that one.
That's wild. So
You could have, though.
Yeah. Self-inflicted.
This man stole my.
He was a real,
HRT.
holy
he was
shit.
stolen valor. He wasn't one of those forced valor guys.
Fuck those guys, man.
He was stolen. I wanted them for a true American hero.
He did literally, for a period of 2 hours, steal valor.
Well, is it really stealing if it's unbeknownst?
Then it's forced.
No.
He got you.
Yeah.
He got you. And that's why.
Forced valor once again.
I just like you're like, got this motherfucker, and you dropped it. And they're like, yo, where's that dude at?
It's like, where's First Arnett? And they're like, oh, he went back home. Where does he live? Oh, like an hour north of Augusta. I was like, oh, we're not even close to there. We're south.
Hey, bro.
About that.
Now, one of my favorite things is you bring it everywhere, wadded up in your pocket.
It has gone to the wash more times than it should have.
God damn.
Love it. You guys wonder why I love this man. It's moments like that. Ever since I met you, you've just like, you've been who you are, which is an amazing human. And you brought it today. You tossed it to Brandon. So Brandon caught it.
Thank God. Yeah, I would have felt like the biggest asshole in the world, which I'm pretty sure is why you threw it. But
And I tried to humchuck it. I tried to ear hole you like a hockey goalie to get that glove side up, but you're surprisingly got quick hands.
a little nimble. Quick hands is what they used to call me in high school, for sure. When did you actually get it awarded? Like, what year was that?
It was February of 2013.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so you've managed to keep up with this one for 11 years.
Yep, same one.
Had to do quick math there.
Yep.
It's plastic. He 3D printed it. He's like, lost that bitch years ago.
Oh, that's just the one I got on eBay.
Do you want to pull it out real quick?
Well, I mean,
You want him to whip it out on the podcast?
Oh, yeah.
Whip it
Whip
out.
that bitch out. YouTube blur this shit. Dude, I love that was in your pocket. God damn.
pass it around.
We'll pass it around. Brandon, you're going to wear this for the thumbnail. For the thumbnail. He's pinning this on you. And then we got to double salute you.
Hey, you guys, man.
Do you want this joke to die or not? This is how the joke
I know what
dies.
I have to do. I just don't know if I have the strength to do it.
Oh, God. Dude,
I just need one.
It is so wild compared to every other military. Even the Distinguished Service Cross, which is like the second highest one. And you're like, oh, they're downgrading it. And then you're like, why? Oh, they're supposed to downgrade it. I thought I was going to Silver Star. And then you walk in, you're like, what the fuck? Because in basic, don't lie. Basic training, you looked and you're like, that's crazy.
Yeah. Like coming up through the ranks, you're always thinking like, oh, metal, that's a Audie Murphy. That's, I mean, just bigger than life. These heroes and warriors that you think about that, you know, the Desmond Dosses and, I mean, the Lynx and the...
It's hard to conceptualize like any of those stories and to be part of that story for eternity. Because it's not something, it's like, as you're saying, like what, you said 1,600, how many people have it? 1,440 living, 3,600 total.
Yeah.
Period, have ever had that.
And that's the thing too, though. It's also not a popularity contest, and it's not a lifetime achievement award.
No.
Like that was one of the kind of reassuring, coolest things when I'd met some of the other recipients. They talked about, just because you've received the medal doesn't mean that is your life. Learn how to say no, but you're still who you are.
And that's what's crazy about it.
And if we put it right there.
Oh God, no! I just need
all, like,
one
doing
clip
this.
for myself.
Just put it right there.
It's like, nah.
I just need one clip for myself, wearing it, saying, "I got this fight in the sand. You're a guy."
It helms deeper.
Aaron Elman Armin.
Even on the microphone, it makes me so uncomfortable.
I got this at Helms Deeper.
Helms deeper.
Your helmet's crooked. At Helms Deeper.
Homes Deeper is where I found the guys who are remodeling my kitchen.
I told you. I was like, I hope he knows what he's getting into on this podcast. I was like, picture the military, and that's it.
Call him border year guy.
Border your guy.
They should put up a wall for them guys.
Brandon, it's your third one.
I got nothing, man.
You're going to have to go to clothing and sales to get a third oak leaf cluster.
And walking up.
I've never seen a silver oak leaf cluster for a Medal of Honor before.
All the military people are dying.
Do you know how hard it is to make me speechless? I got something for everything, man. That's.
Oh, shit.
The forced highest of valor of ever.
I mean, how many promotion points do you need?
Cody, please send me that picture.
Oh, what would be the best way for the thumbnail? Because the thumbnail is definitely going to be you doing this too. We want to recreate your photo, but he is now you. So this is immortalized in all of podcast
You guys
history.
are having such a good time with this, man. I think I might actually be physically blushing. How much did he tell you about this?
Right now, you look like my ex-wife trying to give me a blowjob. You don't even want to get close to that microphone.
Holy shit! I'm so happy.
Oh, God. So Eli, on one throwaway bit a year ago, did you think it was going to go this far?
It paid off so good. It peaked.
This is officially peaked.
This is how we close this chapter, and all of this is going to be. What would be the most respectful way from your end to put it on him, or do we put it on him? You let me know on the respect program, because I have 0. I gave him my purple. It's just like this, and he was like, "Stop!" Pushed it away from me. I was like, "Why are you being gay?"
And then in that moment, Eli sensed weakness. He was like, "Ooh, I know how to ruin your next year."
And then Crispy and Jack, who got shot but didn't get a purple heart, all are trying to give you a purple heart.
This man that hates veterans over here.
Apparently.
Oh, by the way, that was.
I hate veterans so much that all of my friends are veterans. It's one of those.
Do you know what they used against him for his Congress run?
Oh, wasn't it? Weren't
hates-
you talking about you hate veterans that commit suicide, or?
I see you watch the news. I quoted a joke that Eli was like, "Oh, you need to make this joke," because earlier that day we had just done a veteran suicide prevention panel. And Eli's like, hey, you need to make this joke. And I'm like, nah, it's a little too far. And then I said the joke on the podcast that I didn't make while we were doing a veterans charity benefit that morning. And they clipped that 7 seconds. They're like, look at this guy. He thinks veteran suicide is funny. I'm like, all the shit I've done, really? And no? Okay.
That's the one. That's the clip you're going to use.
Us laughing, they cut that out. It's like, it's just Brandon hates veterans. They're like,
well, when you got $12 million to spend, you can make anything look like anything. Politics, it's so fun.
Oh, it's amazing. When are you getting back into them?
Hopefully never, man. Hopefully they just vote right.
Wait, what are we doing? Are we doing no? Are we saying no?
No.
What to what?
Are you not getting back into them? What are we doing, Brandon? Are we allowed to talk about this on the podcast? Chase is right there, so we can tell him to edit this out.
Well, the funny part is the most recent thing, by the time this comes out, either is going to be a thing or it really won't be, so we'll see. The ATF director thing?
Which, if we had an ATF director, this would be the number one vote.
It started very tongue-in-cheek and then turned very serious very quickly, which is kind of wild. I started getting a lot of calls from DC. Like, if the Trump administration is based enough to even consider this, I am so excited for our incoming administration.
And our tax stamps.
$200.
So dope.
$200.
It might be cheaper.
I'll just say I've got some ideas.
I got plans. You're like, fuck. I can't wait. Metal, how would we do this? For a thumbnail, what would be the most respectful rate to do that and then do branded service
Via
and also
Photoshop.
for the lulz?
I'm trying to think. What would be?
This is why you're in the position and not me, because I would just put it on. But I want to do everyone as the actual respect. Brand's like, he's sweating. He's like, I was more comfortable when he was throwing it at me.
Hey, then get him another drink.
You want straight whiskey or a little whiskey?
Fucking glass of whiskey.
Oh, man.
Welcome to the
Hey,
podcast.
join my podcast, he said. It'll be fun, they said.
Clint's like, why is this? Like you're bearing the weight of responsibility.
They'll have like a Flavor Flav chain. We could then hang it like super low.
Oh my God. Do we have a chain? We have to have a chain of some type.
We've got this.
Jake, shut the fuck up. No, we don't.
Cross. Oh!
No, we can't
we
do
take
that.
off the cross and then we put it around the cross.
Where's the fucking thing? Here it is.
Dude, the
Your fucking
rosary.
rosary.
And then we take off the cross. And then it's very Mexican because you got rosary beads. And the metal hanging right here. Or it's way more offensive. It's one or the other. You're either going to piss off a lot of Mexicans or a lot of veterans.
You know, there's like 5 or 6 moments where you just have that realization in life. You're like, I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing. This is one of those.
Extra strong.
God, this
Thank you.
is
Dear
rusting. This is
Well, we could compromise and redo it where we present it to your microphone, which you've been talking in for the last 12 months.
The Medal of
we
Honor.
turn it around.
We
Yeah.
is
For the
ceremony where
microphone?
we end it.
We're gonna do the ceremony for it, and
We're
then
ending
we'll
the joke, right?
Yeah, we're making a joke. So that's why I want to respect, because I know you're going to be big on respecting that, and I just want to respect that. So we will figure this out. And if we just put it on Brandon's mic, which will always forever be the Medal of Honor microphone.
It got the Medal of Honor for having to put up with listening to me for hundreds of hours.
Do you want to pin it?
You can.
You do this. Brandon, turn your microphone around. Nope. Whoa. Turn it that way. There we go.
Yep.
Oh, God. Say, but talk to Brandon when you do it.
Wait, are we
It's still
like a
Brandon's.
kink. What the
Yeah,
hell
this
is
is Brandon's neck.
Eli, are we killing the joke right now?
We're
Retiring.
retiring. We're not
Okay.
killing anything.
That's too
retiring
veteran.
the joke.
Real jokes don't die.
Yeah, they live on forever. As oh, I'm so sorry, Brandon.
No, you're not.
I'm not.
As your dedication to service after receiving not only this is your 3rd Medal of Honor, 5th Purple Heart, this microphone that you've speaked in will forever be remembered for its heroics, intrepidity. I don't know what word they use for that.
Oh, sir! Oh, dang.
At least Obama didn't give it to me.
Thank you. Eli, hold on. We haven't asked this yet. What have you raised for veterans so far?
Oh, shit. Good segue. We're like 60 grand in 11 days.
This is also the 12th.
The 12th, 12 days. So
yeah.
60 grand we have raised in 12 days, and I know that's going to go through the roof even more in the next, however many days, 17 days, 18 days.
When's
18 days, 18 days. 18. Oh, for this one, never mind. It's a weekish. It's gonna be 100-ish thousand if we do this right? Question mark. I don't know. We are killing it. All of you are killing it. Chase will put up the actual number raised for this, and then, which is awesome. Great segue. You actually have a nonprofit that you stand behind, which I think out of anyone that knows the trials and tribulations of veterans, drink. I know. It'd be you. So you would have a good idea. And you actually brought this up. You're like, hey, I support these guys because they support yourself and they support other veterans. If you want to open up on that.
So I've been with America Warrior Partnership for 6 years now. It's a great organization out of Augusta, Georgia. And what really attracted me to them, because, of course, as a Medal of Honor recipient, you get asked to be on a lot of boards and a lot of nonprofits.
Why? I'm joking.
Well, maybe other ones too.
I was asking Brandon's microphone.
But it
I just pictured the board. It's a microphone.
Okay, Mr. Hat.
It's like the sorting hat from Harry Potter. The board has deemed you Gryffindor.
So I've been with the America Warrior Partnership for 6 years, and what really attracted me to them is you get a lot of veteran nonprofits out there talking about stuff they're wanting to do, and the big part of AWP's initiative is we hear about ending veterans. Yes, we want to end it, but the reality of it is to get to zero isn't a realistic goal. So to decrease veterans is not a program, it's a result of doing good work. And it's not one pill solves it all, not one magic wand you can wave to do that. And AWP has been amazing with building those relationships with veterans, advocate when they hit obstacles, collaborate with local communities, because local communities are going to solve the best problems at the lowest levels, and then educate the veteran, and then sit there and tear down the roadblocks that might come up as they hit them. Because it's not just a mental health issue, it's relationships, it's financial, it's access to care, it's dealing with the bureaucracy of the VA. And AWP has done that along the way since I've been with them. It's been a great organization to be with because of the fact that they don't look at it, like I said, as just a program. We're going to end veterans, but we're going to decrease it by a result of outcomes.
That's, we're going to donate at least, at minimum, like as much as we raise, we're allocating 33% towards that nonprofit. Because again, one of the individuals that's dealt with the VA and then dealt with the military and then knows about, hey, trials, tribulations, and then the PTSD and everything. Yeah. Drink on that. An individual that has been through all that at every level, you are the one we want to lead. Like, if you're the one waving flag, like, hey, this organization actually does good and needs funds, that is what we will put towards what we're doing this month. And I think all the guys are on board for that.
Yeah,
like,
to be honest, we're a bunch of dipshits, dude. Like,
yeah,
100%. We sit here and make cum jokes, but we got amazing people, like him coming on here and
Brandon's microphone,
it's awesome, dude. Yeah, Brandon.
We're sharing life advice about, you only break one law at a time,
Well, it's just really cool to have organizations that actually like they identify the root of the problem and try to help. Because like there's so many people, like there's still friends of mine that are active duty here in San Antonio, and they're talking about how their superiors want to do a veterans initiative, and I'm dead fucking serious. Their idea was, let's do a 5K and hold signs on the side. It's like, wow, yeah, I'm sure that's doing wonders for veterans.
People shot themselves that day. I would.
Wow. You know what makes me want to not myself? Waking up at 5 a.m. to run 5 kilometers.
When you're depressed, you're like,
and that's why it shouldn't be a program. It should be an outcome of resources. And
yeah. And then they're just like bros being bros. Honestly, just that's what we talked about on our panel in Las Vegas. Bros being bros.
It's what actually makes a difference. And all of you that reach out, we have had hundreds of thousands of messages to this date of like, hey, I was in a bad place and this is what got me out of that place. And that is because it is like hanging out. What we miss, and I guarantee you can speak to this, is the camaraderie from the gang. You're just like, man, you are wrapped around these guys. You are enveloped in it. And then you do that for 16 months to 3 years, and then suddenly
it's taken away. I mean, you can sit there, and as I reflect back, like I still know what Raz's freaking stinky feet smell like. Sleeping next to that guy for 12 months. It's freaking corn nuts and freaking onions. Atrocious. And one thing I always get to brag about still to this day, knock on wood, is we have yet to lose one of the members of Red Platoon to suicide. It's been over a decade later. Those guys went through that type of shit and are still alive today.
And I bet you guys have one of the do all of you stay in really tight?
We have this stupid platoon text that goes on, and 99% of the time we're just talking shit to each other. But it's those moments when you're like, hey, so-and-so isn't responding. And then we start kind of tag teaming. Hey, what's going on? Hit them on an individual level and find out, oh, man, you're going through a divorce. You just lost your job. Your car just broke down. It's maintaining those communications and building those relationships that is key. Because you can't just, like I said, you can't just show up one day and expect to wave that magic wand and solve those problems. It's knowing what Raz's feet smell like. It's knowing what Copus has been through, running out his GI Bill and wanting to be a lawyer and go back to school, but finding him help to figure that out later. And if we're not, like I said, as veterans, kind of keeping the pulse on each other, we can't expect the VA to do that for us. We rely on other
human connection.
That's next year's Veterans Month T-shirt. Bullying saves lives.
Yeah, it truly does.
Yeah,
there you go.
I love it.
That's something that I've harped on like Darwin Awards and stuff like that, because sometimes that does come up with people just deciding to end their own lives. It's like, man, if you want to stop veterans, you don't need to necessarily donate to groups. You don't need to get agencies involved. All you have to do is pick up the phone, dude.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like, it's free. The answer is free.
So
you just got to utilize it.
And that's what I like about AWP. Like I said, we're not trying to end veterans. to get it to zero is an unrealistic goal. But if we can decrease it, because there are going to be those times, and I'm just going to be real here, that people are going to make that choice, and you're trying to put a rational explanation to an illogical result. Some people are just, that's just going to be what it's going to be, and I'm going to be real and say that. Like, to get it to zero is unrealistic. But if we can decrease it by continuing those relationships, and at times it's either picking up that phone, it's making that derogatory comment, it's letting each and every one of us know that we're not doing it alone. And there's always going to be someone to have your back. Because it's still better to be here and suffering than being gone and all of your other battle buddies over, because you didn't give them the opportunity to step in and have your back.
What is the saying? It's a
don't be a bitch.
It's
permanent solution to a temporary problem.
Yeah, exactly. That is the saying, because it's a wild one. You have that exact opposite, where it's like the guys I deployed with, you have 16 KI and then 28 since being back, and you're like, what the but then it is the individuals that stopped reaching out or talking. And when you're in platoon size elements, you're like, oh, like that guy was in my company, or that guy wasn't in my specific platoon, and then or in my team, so you don't think about it. But versus you guys, you have that like super tight, especially after that, like that is baptism by fire on a different level.
It is, and that's the thing too, though, is like I said, there's guys we're not as tight with as other guys. There's always those cliques in a platoon, but as I sit there and like to describe them, we're all one big happy family. Not gonna like you all the time. We're gonna have those political discussions at Thanksgiving where we're gonna flip a table and throw a chair. But at the end of the day, even though I might not like you in a certain moment, always gonna love you. And I think that's the benefit we get as veterans, is that exposure to love more than all the hate you kind of see around the world. And we are abusing that opportunity we've been given just because we think, well, they're probably handling it okay, or the mentality is, I don't want to be someone else's problem. I don't want to be that guy. That's the other thing that creeps up, is the easiest way not to be that guy is I'm going to eliminate myself from the process. That's not the case at all. That it shouldn't be the go-to, but that's also kind of the double-edged sword of military service, is you've been taught kind of that for so long. That's the easiest way to kind of eliminate that problem. But again, that's where we haven't embraced as much as we should that camaraderie of taking that uniform off and knowing you've got someone that's always going to be there no matter what. You were talking about the World War II vets you just had on.
Yep.
Like 99 years old.
Yep, 99.
Still
Dawn now.
Dawn.
Our boys.
Like it's such a special thing that we have, that so many people that haven't worn the uniform.
That's
Brandon's like,
you're all laughing. I'm like, that was the part I was okay with.
Brandon's like, I'm so comfortable. Thank you. Thank you. Take that away from me. Lift this burden
Gotta
off
bring
me.
him back, dude.
Do you know who you're
Added
talking
2
to?
years back to my life.
Clint, do you know who you're fucking talking to? You stand at parade rest when you rub his back.
I thought it was a parade attention for this one.
He's like, hold here, hold. Sorry, Brandon, I love you.
And again, if Eli stopped doing those, I would think he hated me. So
There we go. We got to bully our friends, bud.
Yep. Love.
like whenever I was going through anything like kind of rough, I would always say like, oh no, as long as I'm joking about, you guys have nothing to worry about.
Oh yeah, that's a very true statement. If you guys are like, huh, look, hey dog, what's up? What's going on? Are we good? What's going on?
America Warrior Partnership out of Augusta, Georgia. AWP.org is our website. One of the cool things we've done is our partnership with Duke University. We've been doing a study for the last 8 years. We're getting into the states because what we end up wanting to do is to figure out where kind of the red flags are. And instead of going to fish for veterans that might be at high risk, hey, call the hotline. We want to go hunt for them. Because the veteran that's committing in Florida doesn't look like the veteran that's committing in California. And when we can kind of start breaking down the data, we're seeing every veteran is unique kind of geographically, and everyone needs to be addressed in a different way. And it comes back to building that relationship long before ideations happen. Give you an example. We've been doing this study for 8 years. Florida is one of our big case studies. The veteran that's taking their life in Miami is typically a veteran that's served 4 years, non-combat MOS, that's been out less than 10 years, and they're dying from drug overdose.
It is wild because we have a higher percentage of people that were non-combat MOSs taking their lives than individuals in combat, right?
Yep.
Why do you think that is? Just
I actually have no idea because I just read that the other day. It was a weird
part of that is the psychology of they didn't do anything.
That one. Yep.
They didn't contribute. They missed their time. They were there in service support, not direct action
really
support.
do feel like I need this microphone over on your side now.
I was just feeling like
you
maybe
you earned that microphone. Everyone's just saluting. Cody, close that beautiful episode out before we do the after show.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining the Unsubscribed Podcast. I was joined today by Eli Doubletap, Clint Romesha, Brandon Herrera, myself, Donald Operator. Catch us on the Unsubscribed After Show on Patreon.
Clint, where do we find you? Or not find you because you never use social media?
Minot, North Dakota. I've been known for playing pull tabs and bingo at the Ranger Bar on Mondays at 8 o'clock.
That's that. Let's fucking go. Mwah!